Merci. Bienvenue tout le monde. Welcome to the July Council meeting for July 7th, 2025. Bienvenue au Conseil municipal de la Ville de Westmount pour le 7 juillet 2025. Welcome, everybody. Just before we start with some updates and some happy news that I will let Councillor Roux be the one to share, I just want to thank all those who attended both the Saint Jean festivities, which I was unable to attend this year, but as well the Canada Day festivities and everybody who put in all the effort to make those two great events for our community. Donc, un gros merci pour ça. Puis je pense qu'on va commencer avec des commentaires du Conseil. And I'm going to start at this end because it's the happy news. Donc, c'est le Conseil Roux.
Thank you. So, yes, I'm very excited to announce this. So, our Westmount Library on June 28th in Philadelphia received the most prestigious award from the American Library Association, the John Cotton Award for Public Relations for the work it did during its 125th anniversary celebrations. So I'll take the time to tell you a little more about it and to thank some people. So to celebrate, the AAL's statement when they announced that we were winning was to celebrate the Westmount Public Library's 125th and the City of Westmount's 150th anniversary in 2024. The library launched a year-long campaign inspired by pioneering Chief Librarian Mary Sachs. I think everybody's familiar with Mary Sachs. With support from the City Council and a dedicated anniversary committee, the initiative highlighted the library's historic legacy, deepened community engagement, and ensured inclusive access to events and services. The campaign honored the library's impact while building momentum for the future. So this is an incredible honor. There were 140 applicants. We are one of 8 winners and the only Canadian library to receive the award. The added good news is that in recognition of this achievement, the library received a cash award of $10,000 US from the H.W. Wilson Foundation. So I would like to thank the Mayor and Council for their support for the 125th Committee's efforts and for appointing such a hardworking, creative, and fun committee that was comprised of 3 library staff, Laura Bayoko, Daniel Miguez de Luca, and Wendy Whaling, 3 residents, Marie-Christine Dufour, Helene Klieger, and Kathleen Roger. And finally, 1 counselor had the pleasure of working with that talented group, and that was me. We worked hard, but we had such a good time. Having a mix of library staff, residents, and council representation on the committee worked extremely well. Each was respectful of the other's perspective, and as Wendy mentioned in her speech when receiving the award in Philadelphia, working on a committee with residents offered a fresh perspective and a direct pipeline into the needs of our community. I would also like to thank the staff at the library and community events who so enthusiastically gave the committee a tremendous helping hand. I would like to mention the Westmount Historical Association, who was instrumental in launching the year of festivities with their related conferences in the fall of 2023. And last but not least, I would like to thank all the Westmounters who participated in the different activities that were organized. You came in droves. The library wants to thank you, Westmounters, for making the 125th anniversary campaign an award-winning success. So please join us in the Westmount Room on Wednesday, July 16th from 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. for treats and a look back at our special year. Finally, I can't conclude without a very special thanks to Wendy, Daniel, and Laura, who after a year of hard work really went the extra mile and produced a comprehensive document in order to submit the library's candidacy for this prestigious prize. Merci du fond du cœur à toute la communauté de Westmount. And the library continues to do good, so as always, please go on the website because there's so much more, but I've picked out a few for you. So there is green screen travel days on Saturday. Oh, that's passed. Not a good one. Sorry. Okay. Around the World Movie Afternoon with the National Film Board for 6 years and over. So that's Tuesday, July 15th from 4 to 5 p.m. in the Westmount Room from France to Nunavut via Hong Kong. And so come celebrate with us. I've just told you about that. Then there's a workshop to digitalize your memories. So that's for people 18 and over on Thursday, July 17th from 6 to 9 p.m. So bring your DVDs, floppy disk, slides, records, photo negatives, and more to be digitalized at the studio. Learn how to create digital versions of your media and memories that can be kept forever. I should go to that. And then community events. There's going to be a vernissage on Friday, July 17th at 6 p.m. So the summer exhibit is a group exhibit. It's Raphaël Benchertrit, Yakim Zeng, and Sylvie Tourangeau, and finally Anne Galadoff. There's summer concerts going on so many nights. So July 13th, July 20th, July 27th, August 3rd. So please go on the website. I've already taken up a lot of time. Summer Film Festival, again, many going on. And there's an Emma Quebec blood drive on Wednesday, July 23rd from 1:30 to 8 p.m. So please come by at Victoria Hall and give blood if you can. Help so many people. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Madame Roux. Mr. Chemy? No? Councillor Pearce? Some updates on the cones that we have all over the city?
There are a few cones, but I just want to kind of pre-announce later on this evening, we'll be awarding the contract for the long-awaited, long-overdue Claremont Rehabilitation Project. As you know, we kind of pivoted earlier in the year. We changed the plans and we simplified the plans, bring the cost down, make it a little bit more socially acceptable in the neighborhood. So what we're going to be seeing is a lot of the status quo in terms of the configuration. It'll be a resurfacing, but more than just a resurfacing, there'll be some sidewalk work, and the concrete base will be aggressively restored, and those long-standing railway ties will be finally gone. So I look forward to that, and that kind of rounds out the complement of our road projects for the year. We have Sherbrooke underway. Forden is underway. I think Wood had been launched. Starts today, exactly. Green Avenue, but that's more of a subsurface project, and a lot of it by Ville-de-Montréal. So what you will see is a tally of works, which I would think is far from anemic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I know we've had a lot of feedback on the Sherbrooke Street construction, and as you'll see, they are moving westward. And it was planned that way so that the two restaurants that do have terraces, or typically have terraces in the summer, are now able to open those because the sidewalk work has been done. But we do understand that it's painful for the businesses that are in the area, for the people that are used to getting around that area a little bit easier in terms of traffic flow, but the work was desperately needed. So, on va commencer, Madame Bostock? No? Councillor Gallery?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Sorry, welcome. I just have a few updates tonight, but I just also would like to thank the Sports and Rec Department for hosting the Canada Day splash party at the pool on last Tuesday, Canada Day. And I think they had the most beautiful cake. Over 500 pieces were cut. The lifeguards were in great shape and put on a scavenger hunt and had music and dancing and pool games, and it was a huge success. So a big shout out and thank you to all of them. And additionally, the Community Events Department had a sold-out concert at Victoria Hall the same day, and it was really nice to see a full house and a well-appreciated concert on a very hot day. I'd also like to highlight that it's been flagged a broken piece of equipment in Westmount Park in one of the jungle gyms. The repair is in process. The piece has been ordered, so be patient with us. And the other half is fully usable, but we do see people breaking into it sometimes, but it will be repaired. Our signature flower clock on Sherbrooke has been completed and is functioning in service, so go have a look. It's quite beautiful. And the fencing around the Doug Ellis Memorial Garden has been removed, and there'll be a formal dedication at the end of August. That's it.
Merci beaucoup. Councillor Aronson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've got 3 quick things. First of all, I wanted to thank the communications and administration teams that did a marvelous job helping us put together our public assembly on June 18th, wherein many of the people who are presently in this room and many more came to hear about and give commentary on the special planning project for the Southeast sector. And we thank everybody who came out and offered their feedback and their commentary, all of which has been heard, and we are in the process of moving through all those various comments to see what we can do about items that were raised that evening. So thank you very much for being involved. We appreciate it very much. Secondly, we would call on everybody using the parks, especially Westmount Park, to please be mindful of the urban wildlife, in particular the ducks, who are delicate and who, though they do nest in our parks, are residents just like we are and deserve to be left unharassed. So if you're in the park with young children or with a dog on a leash, please do make sure that those who are accompanying you treat the urban wildlife with the respect it deserves. And thirdly and finally, if you've already signed up for tomorrow morning's bulky item pickup, which is the only one this month, you'll know that you need to put your bulky items out by 7 a.m. If you haven't already picked up, don't worry, there's another one the first Tuesday of August, so keep those bulky items for 1 more month. Make sure you sign up at least 1 day in advance, and you can get your items out, and the city will pick them up and take them away on the first Tuesday of August. Thank you very much, Madame Mayor.
Merci beaucoup. Councillor Kez? Non? OK. Donc, on va commencer avec le... Merci beaucoup. On va commencer avec la première période de questions before we go into the main part of the agenda. So we'll start with the first question period, and then we will go to the questions that have been submitted online if we have time. We may do them in the second round, but we will see. So I know that there's going to probably be a bit of a lineup, so I would just ask you to be mindful of time. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Mayor Smith. Thank you. Greetings, councillors. At the June 18th
Sorry,
public...
your name?
I'm
for
sorry,
the
Jeffrey
record?
Dowd. I'm a member of the Atwater Library Board of Directors. At the public consultation on the Southeast redevelopment project and LeMay proposition, there was a mention of a new tool the city would have through the PPU that allows the city to engage in real estate transactions. I didn't find evidence of this tool in the revised PPU, so I'm asking whether you can provide details on this new tool and what it means for the Southeast development.
I am assuming you're talking about the added tool that the city has to, I don't want to use the word expropriation. Is that's...
Well, that's related to the
Councillor
question.
Pearce.
I'm not sure what it means.
Councillor Peart is going to answer that one for you.
So, as we mentioned before, this is a continuous process, and there are milestones. And so when the document was first published, work was still continuing in the background. So by the time the document was made public after the first reading of the adoption, there was still some motion behind the scenes that was in progress. So by the time June 18th came around, there was a new element that had been recommended to us by legal counsel, and it is a tool that is generally included in all PPUs. I won't say all, but most.
Majority of
the majority of
PPUs.
PPU examples. This is that tool. Now, the tool is a tool that is uniquely applicable at the PPU stage for municipalities, and it's a relatively new tool, and it enables the municipality to try to incentivize a property owner and use this tool to, the word I guess it is expropriate, so that the city becomes the owner of this property for a certain amount of time, and then the city can then transition that project to somebody else. Now, the reason for doing that is, you can imagine, remember the PPU? The PPU is a large-scale vision, and for one reason or another, one owner may be less motivated to act than is desirable for the common effort, the common vision. And so this tool, because typically the city is limited in using a tool like this to acquire property or to leverage property for the common good, but in this case, the tool is applicable for the city to apply towards a private property and then have that private property, to bring that other owner to the table with another owner, and it allows the city to act as an intermediary for that process. So it's a tool that, again, gets the city closer to the collective vision.
And may never be used,
And it
but
may-
it is
it's-
recommended by our outside legal counsel to have it as part of basically a toolbox.
Right, so as the mayor says, it's a tool that we have on reserve, but it means that it's there if ever
Hope
we
to
need
never
it.
use.
So it's an expropriation tool, but it's not necessarily to be used.
Yes.
Can you explain at this point how the land exchange or expropriation might be carried out? And are there any lots that are earmarked for this kind of expropriation/exchange?
So at this point in time, we have not designated any particular lots. What we are doing, we are making sure that it's in the toolbox, so that at a later date, that tool is available should it need to be used.
As a last resort. And this is based on guidance from outside legal counsel, would be probably considered the urban planning expert in the province that we have used, for years in Westmount, the legal counsel, as an appropriate element to have in the PPU. And this is a new power that the province has. And I see Madame Lagrafière is probably getting nervous as we wade into this area, but est-ce que vous avez d'autres commentaires sur ça ou non?
Non, peut-être juste préciser à ce moment-là, pour pas qu'il y ait de confusion, que vous ne parlez pas du bonus zoning.
No.
No, no.
Parfait.
No. That is
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
if I could just add one last point, this is the only time that it can be included in the toolbox. We cannot.
Can't add it
We can't
later.
pass the PPU and then try to access it at a later point in time and reattach it. So it's the opportune moment to include it in the toolbox.
Welcome.
Hi, James Murphy, Melville Avenue. There's a long lineup behind me, and I think I've shared my thoughts on the Southeast PPU. But I thought I'd add, if I may, another 105 voices, some neighbors who I've been speaking to who have signed on to 2 petitions.
Okay.
The first one was done online a little bit earlier in the process, asking Westmount to move forward with the PPU. It's a little bit nebulous, but that's the first petition. The second one is a little bit more specific. It's more recent. It was collected in person. And these signatories are asking you not only to move forward with the PPU you have, but for the next council to keep an open mind about developing affordable housing in the sector, and also for candidates looking to join council to bring their own proposals forward. So I have
can
these
you
2 petitions.
Thank you for the petitions, for the feedback, and you have left them with the clerk, so all of council will now get a copy of that.
Wonderful.
So thank you very much.
And one comment, if I may, everything that I'm hearing at the door, people are very worried about the housing situation, the availability of housing. No one's too fussed about the process. They just want the Westmount to get this done and start welcoming new neighbors and new businesses. Thanks.
Thank you for your feedback. Welcome.
Good evening, Richard Dufour from Anwath Avenue. Last year, in I think it was April of 2024, the city passed a bylaw. The intent of that was to help reduce the effect of urban heat islands. And one of the measures was to insist or recommend the use of white or green roofs. As far as I know, the city has not yet enforced or passed a bylaw to put that into effect. Last year, the city had a tender process to replace the roof of one of the garages in the public works yard. And there was no requirement for a white roof. In fact, the roof that was replaced was a traditional tar and gravel roof, which is quite an old technology. When I questioned it, in fact, the bids that came in were substantially less than what the city had estimated. And putting a white roof would have cost about $10,000 more, which still would have been within the original budgeted amount. I was glad to know that I was able to talk to some people from the engineering department and Director General to find out more. And they said that at the time it was because this was a temporary measure because the whole public works yard was going to be eventually overhauled. They also said, oh, well, the area is full of concrete, so, you know, changing one roof is not going to make a difference. I was very surprised to hear that kind of comment. Every little step makes a difference. They also said there's going to be dust from Ville-Marie Expressway, and that's going to make the white roof dirty, and it might not be a worthwhile attempt. Again, it's kind of a very sorry but lame excuse. I see on the agenda today that there is a motion to approve or to give a tender for another roof in the Public Works, garage number 4. I'm not sure which garages these are, but the bids that I saw online range in the $500,000 range, which is a substantial amount to be investing in something that is supposed to be a temporary measure, if that's what really is the case. So I'd like to know, first of all, why we're spending that kind of money for something temporary, and more importantly, if it is going to be replaced, will it be a white and or green roof?
Thank you for your question, and it's an important one, and it is this, and you are correct. On tonight's agenda, there is another roof, and as you know, the state of the entire Public Works yard does need an overhauling, but at the current state, there are roofs caving in. I don't have all the details. I know that white roofs were part of the a white roof option was part of the tender documents, but I'll have to get back to you on more of the details of that.
So you're voting on something tonight, and you're not sure if it's going to be a white roof or not?
I know it's not I know that it's not a white roof.
Oh, it's not a white roof. So you're voting on a $500,000 tar and gravel roof?
$300,000.
$300,000 tar and gravel roof.
Significant difference between 3 and 5, yes.
I find that really kind of sad and disappointing and discouraging. My second question, if I may, the Environmental Sustainability Advisory Committee has been meeting for over almost a year now, I think. The minutes are never up to date, and I guess because of backlogs. The last minutes that I saw were in February. So I'm trying to keep up to date of what's going on that committee, of which I was a member. And the reason why I resigned as a member, because at the time, the committee unanimously, and I say unanimously, that included 2 city councilors that sat on it, made some recommendations, very simple recommendations to improve bylaws. And we were told at the time that they would not be received because they were premature and outside of our mandate. I'm hoping that the committee will have their proposals soon, or recommendations. My question to council, given that you only have a few months left before the end of this particular term, will you pronounce yourselves and finally make some concrete measures in terms of passing bylaws that are meaningful to show us a sign to future people who will be electing those who want to represent themselves, if they really are committed to this? Because so far I haven't seen a commitment in terms of bylaw changes for sustainability.
So I'm going to hand it over to Councillor Aronson, but I think you do see a commitment in a lot of the roads that we're building and the parks that we're building and how we deal with stormwater management, and then other changes that we've made throughout this mandate. But I'll hand it over to Councillor Aronson, who will talk to you about the committee and the recommendations from the committee.
Indeed. So you'll be happy to know that the balance of the minutes up till the June meeting are going to be tabled tonight. In addition to that, we are putting the final touches on our final draft of the report to be presented to council. I was hoping to get in front of my colleagues this evening, but regrettably, it took just a little longer than I'd hoped, so we're going to be looking at it at the next General Council meeting, which will be on the 21st of July. With respect to the recommendations from the Environmental Committee, we did carry on without you. You were missed. We thought of you frequently, and when we would discuss various different elements that you had brought forward. I think you'll be pleased to see some of those recommendations made it into the final report. The mayor is correct in that our commitment as a group and as an administration as a city to doing everything that we can do to further the environmental, minimize the impact of climate change on our built environment, and to make good choices with the opportunities that arise as we can rebuild things, or as we look at how to redesign things. We take up at every opportunity. The difference between what we have been doing and what I hope we will be doing in the coming years is to try to bring it together in a comprehensive fashion where it's easy to understand and very clear to everybody paying attention, especially to those who pay close attention like you do, Mr. Dufour, exactly what the strategy is going forward. So it's not just a question of where opportunities arise, but also a roadmap that we can follow into the future. And that's what we're hoping to achieve with the Environmental and Sustainability Advisory Committee's report. And I'm very happy that we're just right at the last 5-yard marker, and I'd like to bring that ball over the goal line and deliver that report within the year of the committee beginning its hearings or its meetings as we had proposed, and we're going to carry through. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
My understanding, though, is that the report's going to be submitted, but will the council actually take upon some of the recommendations that will be put forward before the end of the term? I mean, there are very, just if I may, just there are very simple things. I keep hearing we need to have a global vision, but there are certain things that can be done very easily in changing a bylaw, and I keep mentioning this over and over again, the 8-inch masonry. We've got the new Southeast project, and I see a possibility of 25-story buildings. Are we going to be building 25-story high buildings with 8 inches of masonry? Parking requirements that should be lessened, green roofs. I mean, there are very simple things that don't require this huge analysis and so on, and yet I see reticence to move forward. And I do hope that I'm going to see something concrete before November. Thank you.
Yeah, you can answer that, and many of those issues that we have addressed come with like serious pushback from residents who are not willing to make those changes. And when we design roads and design parks to make them safer and more environmentally sound, it like full-on hysteria happens. It's astounding. But there have been some significant changes there. So Councillor Aronson, and then we're going to move on to the next question.
Well, just that I did want to say, Mr. Dufour, your comments are very well received. In fact, there are a number of different things that look very simple if we change just one element. But like we've discussed before, our bylaws are all interconnected. Pulling out one piece of the Jenga tower because we want to make one improvement in one area can, if we don't look at it carefully and make sure that the whole system works together, result in all sorts of unintended consequences with respect to the way our bylaws are constructed and what would be allowed or not allowed. If you are a contractor or a developer or a resident who would like to bring forward a project, you need to know with certainty what the rules actually are before you bring it forward, before you do your costing, before you hire your professionals. If we start pulling out pieces here, there, and everywhere because we thought, well, this is a good idea today and that's a good idea tomorrow, without a comprehensive vision of what we're doing, we run the risk of creating bylaws that are incomprehensible. They're already difficult enough. So I see you shaking your head, sir. And I respect where you're coming from, but we can talk about this after the meeting if you like. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. The next question. Prochaine question.
Hi, Carol Christie Olson, Westmount Square. At the June 18th public consultation, density was a central theme. The figure of 480 residents per hectare and the term hypercenter were mentioned repeatedly. Yet it remains unclear how or if these apply to the Southeast sector, and whether they justify the number and scale of tall towers proposed in the LeMay plan. Last week, I took the time to review key sections of the PMAD and found no indication that the Atwater metro area is subject to the 480 hectare target or designated as part of the hypercenter. In Annex 2, which I have right here, it's page 386 of the revised PMAD, called Seuil minimum de densité résidentielle. The figure listed for Atwater is 260 hectares, residents per hectare, and Atwater is not among the hypercenters cited at 480.
I'm not sure what document you're referring to.
The PMAD?
On page, can you leave that with the,
Yep.
that is not the information, we're not sharing this, we don't have the same information. Is that the current version? Is that the current version?
This is the official version shared by
Adopted-
Frederick No. The
Adopted
link,
June 9th?
yes, the one that was adopted but not en vigueur currently.
Okay.
To clarify further, I consulted with McGill professor Nick Luca, who confirmed that the current schéma d'agglomération, which trickles down from the PAIEMENTS, shows the hypercenter ending at the Montreal-Westmount border. Therefore, none of the parcels within the Westmount PPU fall within the hypercenter designation. In fact, Professor Luca received written confirmation from his colleagues at the CMM that Westmount was officially excluded at Montreal's request from the TOD zones for the hypercenter. And I will quote the CMM letter that was written. Entre le second projet et le PMDR final, les zones TOD de l'hypercentre et de Vendôme ont été modifiées à la demande de l'agglomération de Montréal. Ceci est pour exclure du territoire de la ville de Westmount la zone hypercentre. On the topic of densification, Robert Baudry, CMM executive, clarified in a June 23rd article in Le Devoir, c'est une densification qui va arriver au fur et à mesure. Nous, la CMM, on libère le potentiel, mais en arrondissement, ils vont la traduire en termes de permission de hauteur et de densité. In short, the PAIEMENTS sets broad goals, but the implementation is left to local municipalities who are expected to interpret the guidelines in a way that reflects their own character and context. This matches what Professor Luca concluded after discussions with his CMM colleagues, that the PAIEMENTS is not a rigid mandate. It respects the principles of subsidiarity, encouraging context-appropriate densification. And I'll quote from, en tenant compte des spécificités de leur territoire. My question to Council is, why is City Council choosing to insist that Westmount is a hypercenter and interprets the density requirements at the highest possible level versus choosing an interpretation that is more in keeping with Westmount's character?
Thank you for your question. So I, too, have a lot of conversations with Robert Baudry and the people of the agglomeration, and I wouldn't say they align at all with what has been stated there, but I'm not saying that that is not.
I quoted him from an article in Le Devoir.
Yes, but those boroughs have an obligation. They will have an obligation for certain centers that are identified. The area around Atwater Metro is one of those areas. We have had endless conversations with the agglomeration, with the CMM, with this isn't. I know.
But I'm telling you
So
that-
I've been accused of not having any vision on this, not planning on this. There has been so much work that has gone into this.
I recognize that.
And it would be a whole lot easier if we weren't here, if we were able to do something, or if we could just kick the can down the line a little bit further, because that's what's gone on for so many years, right? We're choosing not to do that, but we have certain obligations and certain things that make sense in an area on top of a metro station that is surrounded by significant density in the areas that have been built. This is an underdeveloped area. The buildings are either abandoned or
Right, I guess my
empty,
question is really relating
or
to
demolished.
the interpretation of the PAIEMENTS, which we were to understand was a hard line, and
It
in
is a
black
hard
and
line.
white, in a link that was sent to us by Frederick No, the urban planner for the city,
Yeah.
that states on page 306 that the Atwater Metro is not within the hypercenter zone, and that its seuil de densité is 260, not 480. It's in black and white.
I disagree with those numbers. Do you want to add anything to this? And I will have Monsieur No respond to you.
Yeah, what I will say is we've done exactly what you're doing right now, and we have been peppering the professionals and challenging them at every turn to make sure and to validate that these are the numbers, that they are requirements. We just spoke about, we just spent 10 minutes discussing the difference between, in French, demande versus oblige, because we were at that level of inspection. We have pushed, we have inquired, and the consistent reply that we get back from our experts, which may not overlap with yours,
Right. I think there's differences of opinion as well, so
but
it's an interpretation.
It's the interpretation that we are getting from our legal representatives, and both in-house and out-of-house. And it's the feedback that we're getting from our in-house urban planning
Okay.
expertise and or out-of-house urban planning expertise.
I'm just quoting
So
the
I
official document that was
understand.
sent to me by your urban planning department that shows what the densities are. It's the most recent plan. So
Thank you.
I have a follow-up question. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. I will come back up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Councillor Gallery?
Just with regard to the density requirements that we're trying to incorporate into this plan, the plan is still a framework that's supposed to represent a compromise. We have people who want extreme height, we have people who want no height, and there's like a lot of thought that's gone behind this to solve the problem on St. Catherine and the opportunities along Dorchester. So yes, that is a big piece of it, but it's not the entire piece of it. So we have to look at all the reasons of how we got to the proposal that we presented on June 18th.
Yeah, and we are, as council, you know, we have a push now for some people asking for increased height, less towers, and a very significant increase in height. And obviously, we will, you know, we have listened to all of the recommendations. I know there's this impression that we're not. We heard every single thing. I think it was actually one of the only times in a non-council meeting where all of council was actually present. Every single person heard what was being said in that meeting, and we also hear from a lot of people outside of those meetings. I wouldn't, you know, and it's those rooms are not always necessarily representative of how the entire community feels. A lot of the community feels, just solve it. Like, we elect you to solve problems, go solve the problem, talk to you later. But we have heard the recommendations from everybody. We both for and those who are adamantly opposed. What we don't often hear from those adamantly opposed is what they would prefer instead. And we are very open to hearing that as well. So next question, Professor Moore.
Carl Moore, Green Avenue, Lower Green Avenue, really Upper St. Henri, but I'm still claiming Westmount.
No, Westmount.
By 3 houses, ma'am. But anyway, the neighborhood around Stainer Park is the first family neighborhood west of downtown. Green Avenue has become Atwater 2. That is a major thoroughfare traffic in our family neighborhood. Many times I've seen traffic as I come out to work lined up from Dorchester all the way down to St. Antoine. So past the railway, all the way down St. Antoine, dozens and dozens and dozens of cars and trucks as well. The solution is one that was used a few years ago when we moved to Westmount. I remember it well. That is green, 2-way to the railroad bridge, and then 1-way south from there. It made it a civilized family neighborhood. How might we bring this idea forward, ma'am?
The best way to bring it forward would be to write a letter to, you can write an email to me and ask for this to be referred to the Traffic Advisory Committee, and we can look at it. And I know your neighborhood has been significantly hit by different projects, and currently you're undergoing one from the City of Montreal in terms of the water network. So it's been a lot of construction which has, and all the construction along Atwater and St. Antoine that is kind of rerouted up towards you. Your street has taken a hit, and the neighborhood for sure. It's been difficult.
In fact, when we came home tonight, our basement was flooded thanks to the waterworks, but the waterworks people said, no, it's not us, but we're discussing with our insurance. But it's going to be 5 months of enormous noise. Could we pave it? Not you and I, but can we have it paved at the same time as it's rough, it's noisy, it's incredibly torn up now, and it was already bad to start. It would seem like if you're going to pave 25% it, why not save money and pave 100? But I don't know paving, I must admit.
Okay, so that is something that we would have to discuss with our engineering, because Montreal is doing the paving, not Westmount that's doing the patching on that. But we will relay your question to our engineering team to discuss with Montreal.
Thanks for your time this evening, and I apologize for not wearing a tie like gentlemen are supposed to do at this council, evidently.
It's all right. It's all gone very casual around here.
Karen Marks, Lansdowne Avenue. A couple of quick questions. No question, there is a housing crisis overall in Montreal. When we talk about one in Westmount, I guess what I would like to know is, first of all, has there been any gathering of data on how many available units there are currently in Westmount? I know my sister lives in an apartment building where 50% of them are empty. The Children's Project has an enormous number of empty units. And if we are talking about doing this so there can be more people living in Westmount and not talking specifically about low-cost housing, it would seem to me that that would be an essential prerequisite, is to find out what do we have currently and why is it not full. So I'm curious to know if there's any data that's been gathered, and is it possible to see how many units there are available currently in Westmount?
I don't have an up-to-date current list, but I can tell you specific buildings, like the one that you're referring to. You and I both know why there's a 50% vacancy rate in that building. It's not because it's close to Green Avenue and close to, I won't state the reasons why it's got a 50% vacancy rate.
But there are others.
There are some, but there's not many. And if you look at, I think we have to look at a broader basis too, across the island of Montreal after July 1st. And it is difficult to find, and it's difficult to access housing. And if you are moving, it's difficult to, the jump for when you move, the rent increase is enormous. That's why the majority of us also supported a rental registry with the city of Westmount. Not everybody, but certainly the majority supported that. But there is for sure a need for, and there will be in the not so distant future, a need for more senior housing, which we do not have. We have an aging population in this community that won't have access, you will not be able to stay in this community because you will not have enough housing. You don't have enough Manoir Westmounts. You don't have enough Kensingtons. There just are not. If I wanted a parent to go to St. Margaret's, I have a 2-year wait list to do that. So if you want to stay within the community, you do not have enough for your seniors' housing. Do you want
That
to
all
add
makes
on
sense,
to
except that what's been said is that developers won't develop unless we give them 20, 25 stories because it's not rentable. If it's going to be rentable, we're not talking about the kind of housing that people who can't find an apartment are going to want, because we're not talking about housing that is affordable, housing that has any kind of specific attachment to it that requires it to be available to others. So to me, there's a disconnect. A, we don't know how many units we have, and B, not in that document, nowhere is there anything that says we are going to assure that there will be housing for people who could not afford otherwise to live in those units that are available.
That is very much something that concerns us, in particular for me, seniors. And young families accessing this community. So we are looking at ways to include that in. Do you want to add anything on this? I mean, I guess, by saying that the developers are saying, I think you're quoting maybe the developers when you're saying it's not rentable.
Well, you also said it's not, the developers won't develop at 10 stories because
I
they
think
can't.
we have seen it. Nothing has been built. Like, nothing has been built for 60 years. And I would love to not be here. I would love to it have been developed. I would love for it to be a vibrant street at 7 stories with amazing, gentiles the whole way along. I would love that. It didn't happen, and it won't happen. And I have to be realistic about it. And I could be nostalgic about it and say, gosh, I wish it looked like Victoria Village. That block of St. Catherine Street won't. And I refuse to continue to make it someone else's problem. I know I'm being asked to delay. There are certain realities about land costs in that area and what will be built on St. Catherine. And St. Catherine is different than Redfern. We know that. There's different, a city can be many, many things in many different areas. But we know, and thanks to you, the PAIEMENTS and any project that will come forward will be excruciating. They're going to go through a complete meat grinder in terms of like being acceptable for architecture, for design excellence, for all of it, integration, how those buildings on St. Catherine Street integrate with the Atwater Library. We know that I certainly know, I won't be around when it comes to the PAC, but the current level of PAC is not easy to get it through. And those guidelines are you were an architect in those guidelines, and you should feel secure in that knowledge.
I think that's true, but I think that when you're talking about the complaints that there are, it's not the design of the building people are talking about, it's the heights and the densities. So whether or not it's a nice 20-story building, a nicer or more traditional or more modern, is not what we've heard at all. We haven't heard anybody because the plan is not there. The plan is a plan of densities and zoning. And so that's the one that people are not comfortable with. And you and I have discussed this, and just, I have to, because you say there's been nothing, there is a way also to look at fixing up St. Catherine Street, making it appealing, investing something in it so that there might be development that doesn't require 20 stories. Of course, nobody's going to want to develop it the way it looks right now. Even some of the spaces could be made temporary park spaces. That's a choice that was made. But there are other choices. It's not leave it as it is or go to 20 stories. And I find that always an uncomfortable response that does not look at the fact that there are other alternatives.
Okay.
If I could just jump in, just to be clear, are you suggesting we invest in the public domain, spend money to redo sidewalks and streets, only to have those same sidewalks and streets damaged during the construction of a new project?
There's not going to be construction tomorrow. So the people who live there are probably going to be living with what's there for 10 years. So yes, maybe
They're
it
getting
does
new
mean,
sidewalks.
maybe it does mean that there needs to be something invested somewhat temporarily.
Okay.
Street lighting, flowers, street furniture, improvement of the sidewalks in the
So
interim.
we are redoing the sidewalks.
And I think with that, you might well get people who would say, okay, I would develop here because it's a much more attractive place than it is right now. When people say it's dangerous, it's unattractive, of course it is. It hasn't been touched for a very long time.
So it is getting a renewal of some sidewalks. It's getting, we will have, our typical flower pots and things like that. It needs more than that. I wish that would solve it. And I wish we weren't, honestly, I wish it had all been developed and that we were reaping the benefits of it.
Just one comment, because it relates to the housing and the unavailable housing, and to the sustainable development. I don't know if you ever checked. There was a Sustainable Development Action Plan done in 2010 that had many of the things that you have in your minutes that I left at that point, so that's all I could do was to leave the Sustainable Development Plan. It's 40 pages. It is comprehensive. It mentions many of the things, and among them it mentions creation of granny flats and basement apartments and changing the zoning so that people can build a garage with an extra room for their parents, for their kids who want to live in the community, which doesn't require 20 stories and which really focuses on our community and saying, if I want my kids or my parents to live there, I now have the ability to do that. And I think that certainly seems to me to be a way to look at serving those kinds of needs that doesn't go to where we're going now.
I think that's a very good suggestion. And I think you will see some of that and hopefully come into action. Thank you.
Good evening, John Fretz. On another note, and I'll be brief, Summit Woods. Council minutes over a year ago, in May 6th, it was stated that Summit Woods, a forestry engineer has been hired and will be working on the Summit Woods action plan. So 2 brief questions. How are we doing on the action plan? And the second one is, can we meet with the forestry engineer? I mean, we've been going up there for a long time. We know what some of the priorities are. Those are my 2 questions.
He's on paternity leave right now. I believe he's on paternity leave right now. But there is ongoing work happening at Summit Woods, as you've seen, I'm sure.
No, but do we have an action plan? That's what I'm talking about.
There is not a finalized action plan yet, no.
When do you expect one?
I would have to find out from the Director General. With the forestry engineer is on paternity leave right now.
And is someone replacing
Our arborists are filling in for that, I believe.
if they're making decisions regarding, can we, like, there's some fencing that's down and all that stuff, can we meet with someone who's working on the action plan?
You can send me a request for that meeting, and we will try and set that up for you, okay, Mr. Fretz?
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, prochaine question.
Hi, Claire Penny-Raymond, Blenheim Place.
Hi.
Sylvia Ryder and Roslyn.
Hi.
We're hoping this question is a little easier than some of the others you fielded tonight.
This is a topic a little lighter than the other topics.
I think you've submitted online questions too, are they
Yes,
the
we
same
did.
ones? Okay.
Yes, we did.
So we will take you off the online list, okay?
Okay, thank you. So on or about June 28th, swimmers noticed that 2 of the 3 swim lanes available during general and adult swim times had been removed, leaving just 1 lane for swimmers. Although a number of swimmers have asked the various pool staff about the sudden change, no clear answers or explanations have been forthcoming. So in response to the growing angst, frustration, and confrontations over the unexplained removal of the swim lanes, it was decided that a petition should be launched to gauge the extent of the problem arising from the new protocol. After just 1 week, the petition has garnered 64 signatures and numerous compelling comments about safety and other concerns. So there's definitely a problem with the new lane configuration. On behalf of everyone who signed the petition, we're asking Council to ensure the reinstatement of the 3 traditional swim lanes during general and adult swim times. However, the availability of these lanes should be predicated on the use of common sense and flexibility in response to fluctuations in pool usage/demand and the occurrence of extenuating circumstances such as heat waves. We need to find a way to accommodate all pool users alike, and this requires flexibility. So to reiterate, can we please have our 3 lanes reinstated?
Just to add, there's also a question of health. I mean, people need to swim to stay healthy. It's also something that's important. We're seeing so many people drowning in it lately. The city should be promoting people to swim and not just play Marco Polo.
I should say that we submitted the petition. I sent it via email to both you and Matt earlier. I don't know whether you received it. There was no way for me to attach it to the question. I have it here in case you want me to submit it.
I've got like 100 emails in here that I've gotten, so I'm not sure if I received, if you sent it, I'm sure I've got it.
But I can,
Yes,
I brought
Claire,
it
You can
if
leave
you
it
could
with the
submit it.
city clerk.
Yeah.
So I know that you have been in discussion with the folks on the ground at the pool, right? Oh, you have it?
I haven't spoken because enough people have, and there have been no answers forthcoming, so.
So it was my understanding that we always had, and from what I remember seeing in the pool, is typically 2 lanes, not 3. But at times 3 if the. During general swim. So we're not talking about lap swim.
No,
We're
no.
talking about general swim.
There's 7 lanes in that pool.
Yeah.
8.
So we always have 1 lane up. And
Yes.
what your specific ask is that we have 3 lanes up
There were 3 lanes up until the 28th of June.
during general swim. So maybe it's a usage thing. I will have to look at the scheduling. I know there was a heat wave last week. 28th of June, I think it was 40 degrees, was it not? Okay, so we will look at it every time, every July comes a wave of we would like to change the swim schedule for this. And at the heart of it is, people love to be in the pool, and they love to be swimming, and the kids want to do their thing, and the lap swimmers want to do their thing, and the seniors want to do their thing. So we have tried to find a balance in the schedule for that. And I know that where they feel, like, and this is by no means, council doesn't say like, oh my gosh, go put out another rope. It's time to put out another lane swing. But
No, we didn't think
what we would like them to be able to do is to react on site as needed. And I know you raised a couple other questions about some things about cleanliness around the pool, which we are addressing.
Not this This question is regarding the
Oh,
petition.
that's from back there, okay.
So
Anyways, Counselor Gallery will say something, we will look at your petition, and it is a fine balance, though, right, of trying to divvy up a very, very coveted pie.
I think the bottom line is everybody needs to be flexible. So there are times, for example, when after a lap swim, I've been on deck watching the pool, and you might have 23 swimmers in the entire pool, 6 of whom are trying to do laps in one lane. It's dangerous. There's no reason not to put out more lane ropes for lanes.
If the pool
On the
is
other
empty.
hand, there are other times when the pool is packed, like yesterday, and that totally warrants pulling out the lane rope. So I think it's something that requires flexibility and some common sense and good judgment, because right now you've got lap swimmers who are talking about swimming right down through the middle of the pool, which it's a dangerous situation, and it's an accident just waiting to happen. So we've got to be able to accommodate different periods of demand and everything, as opposed to saying it's one lane rope, that's it.
Yeah,
It's got-
and in the lane, there you have fast swimmers and you have slower swimmers. And if you don't have coordination between the swimmers in the lane, something's going to happen.
Yeah.
And we have 3 lap swims a day, right?
Well, there's 7 a.m. and they're for 1 hour or an hour.
55
And then you've got 45 minutes at noon. So you've got a lot of people.
And then
And
again.
in the
at-
evening.
In the evening, right? We have a third one at night?
There's.
Twice a week.
Yeah, twice a week, 3 lanes, 3 lanes.
Oh, 3 lanes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
And-
okay.
and so it's just, not everybody can make it to a 7 o'clock swim or a noon swim. So everybody needs to be accommodated somehow, is all we're saying. And we're not saying that it should be a hard and fast rule that you get 3 lanes all the time during general swim.
Okay, all right, I think, so your points are noted, and we'll look into it. Do you have anything else to add to this?
I think the comments.
I will
that-
respond to you by email, though. I'll discuss with the administration.
I urge you to read the comments, because there's some great comments, and we haven't addressed those just because there's no point reiterating things.
Okay.
you
and
very
left- Okay, thank you. Next question?
Hi, Bronwyn Mantell, Bruce Avenue. I have 2 questions to pose to the council, and they're related partly to the last century, in specific the 1980s, because this is something that has been brought up since that time. It regards people who live very close to the track and now very close to 136 highway, which was built as a result of the Turcotte Exchange. The first question is, does anybody have any idea of the progress of the litigation that is brought by our city regarding no sound barrier being erected, which was promised on the 136 highway?
When you say promised, do you mean promised by the,
I mean, I've
MTQ.
lost the thread of the Turcotte
Yeah.
Exchange and who were the people involved.
by the
but-
MTQ, when it was not going, if it was not going to be lowered, then there would be a sound barrier?
Absolutely.
And it
And-
was not lowered?
No. And
So we continue in our litigation with them. Unfortunately, courts are slow, but we are committed. We do have an update. I think Kathleen Kez would like to. We have been given a short brief from our legal counsel on this, our outside legal counsel. We will post something fairly soon on this, but unfortunately, it's not news that, yes, the government has agreed to install a sound barrier. It is that we are continuing in the court proceedings to try and get them forced into that.
Okay, so the second question relates to the meeting that Your Honor was at, as well as Ms. Kez, at the Green Center. And it was related to the fact that we could have something on the falaise that could be either temporary or permanent. That's after the tracks, right, to help us. And both of you were gobshot by the question, because you brought up something about Santec. And the collective view was, what is Santec? What we need now is something on the falaise, which is after the tracks, that would help us. I mean, it is beyond
What the
horrendous.
litigation is looking at,
Pardon?
which is what the litigation is looking at. Councillor Kez, do you want to weigh in on this?
About the falaise, on the falaise.
Two
there's
separate
misconception
areas.
between Green and Atwater.
Well, you didn't seem to know anything about the
That was
term.
between Green and Atwater. So that was for a sound wall that we were going to be into partnership with the MTQ to build. But to build on the falaise, that was going to be on Prospect. But residents don't want it on Prospect. They would like it on the falaise. But to make it on the falaise, that land is the CP land and MTQ land. And that's why we're in legal litigations now, because we can't.
But also for the rest going,
Yes, because
now-
I live on Bruce.
Yeah, but because the court case is from Atwater all the way till till Blenheim.
park.
Till Blenheim, I believe, yeah?
So forgive me, I've lost the thread. I thought the court case was on behalf of having a sound barrier erected on 136, Highway 136, not on the falaise.
No, I don't think it'll be on the 130, on the actual 136.
On the one, actually, I went to see views of it at St. George Cartier, Etienne Cartier, to show what they were going to put on the 136. A sound barrier, which was going to be transparent.
Looking at a sound barrier, fighting for a sound barrier, where it's going to be, I don't think that's stipulated. We're
so,
just
and we have done noise testing, they have done noise testing post-construction, because you have to continue to do it year after year to show the degradation of the road. We are trying to prove that it is a new highway, therefore it must meet today's standards, even if it is not reducing, even if it's not reducing the sound quality from the previous highway. It is a new highway. It is a new construction. It must meet today's norms. So we are in a long legal battle on this one.
When I put it to our MNA, I've asked, is there no way we could have radar on 136 to at least bring down the
so
speed?
we have put in several official requests for radar on to be used on the 136. Radar is not used as a noise mitigation. It is used for speed reduction.
I understand.
It's incredibly profitable to use as speed,
absolutely.
as I can attest to personally. But it is, I'm hoping now that they're seeing it being successful in, Laval, essentially there is a spot in Laval, if you are over 105, you are getting a ticket. So we continue to make the request for radar there. I don't think it will make a huge impact on sound. I could be wrong, but from what I understand from sound engineers, it won't have a significant improvement in the quality of life. But
They have drag races on Saturday night and Sunday night.
But it was agreed upon by all of council was to very much continue with this litigation. So we are continuing with our outside counsel on that.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Barbara Houghton-Glassman, Côte Saint-Antoine. I have another question, was online about the Westmount Pool.
Okay.
I was, in 1993, I and Claire Chant set up the Westmount Dolphins with parent
great
support.
legacy.
And without any approval from Westmount at the time. I have noticed that the Westmount Dolphins have an hour first, then they have half of the pool for, remember it's an 8-lane pool, they have half of the pool for the next 2 hours and 15 minutes. I think this is totally unacceptable. If you look at the competition in Alps, the Association of Lakeshore Pools, you will see that most of the pools have a 45-minute swim team time, and then they have 45 minutes for water polo, 45 minutes for synchro. And you could do all of that in the 4 lanes. You could, the diving could be done, at the same time as people are swimming, you just rotate it around. And I think there has to be a lot more creative thinking about the schedule of the Westmount Pool.
Okay, so thank you for your feedback, and thank you for you had submitted your question online, I see here. So we had looked into some of the details of it. So they have the entire pool so when I say they, I mean the Dolphins.
For 1 complete hour.
From 8 to 9.
Yes, but you see that could be a lap swim for seniors or for
Instead
swimmers
of dolphins?
Instead of the dolphins. If they have half the pool, 4 lanes,
But they also have it, the pool, it's not just for dolphins, it's for swim lessons till 11:15.
Swim lessons, but they have.
Which requires almost the entirety of the pool.
Well, listen, I go before senior swim, and I see 5 kids trying to play water polo with 1 net. This is ridiculous. Water polo needs 2 nets. You have to play the game.
Okay, so
That much I know.
Your request is noted.
Okay.
So I'm the last follow-up on the pool organization.
Okay.
I had 3 issues. The first one...
Sorry, your name?
Patricia McKinley de Maisonneuve.
And did you also submit a
Yes.
online question? Okay,
Yeah.
so we're taking note of the ones that are...
So I asked about the restroom and shower in the women's dressing room, and this
Yes.
morning when I went in, the plumbers were there. So I got my
Yes.
answer from them. The issue of cleaning the tiles in the pool is one that is, to me, a serious one, because they often do it when the kids are being tested in that 0 lane, and they're scrubbing the pool with some sort of cleanser. I don't think that should be used when anybody is in the pool.
Yeah, so do you want me to answer that question? I do
Yes.
have an answer to
Yeah.
that one. And I understand that you see that the parts have been ordered and the other plumbing issues are being taken care of.
Yeah.
The guards try to ensure that the pool was clean as can be, obviously. I'm sure you've seen them out cleaning the pool deck and everything. They were cleaning the scum line, as they call it, when 3 swimmers were in the pool. They've been advised so the administration has advised them only to clean it when nobody is in the pool, even though the product is completely safe and environmental, because you're like swimming in that pool, seconds later. So it is entirely safe to do it, but they have been instructed not to do it. And remember, many of them are new.
Yes, I know.
And they're sort of
green.
They're
green.
They're sort of 2 weeks into the pool being full. Like, it's not as full at the beginning of June. So they're learning, and they're learning from the administration, and they're learning from the pool manager. But we have shared all of your questions and feedback with the administration that's running the pool.
So the last question I have is similar to the one that Claire proposed about increasing the number of lanes for swimmers during other times. And I would like, since you opened the door about the increasing number of seniors, I would like to open that door a little wider and suggest that perhaps we can come to some sort of understanding where seniors who swim get more than 2 swim hours a week dedicated to them because of the aquafit that takes the place of senior swim Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And the reason I think that's important is that it impacts on the swimmers who come in at 12:15 to 12:45. By the time the ropes are put up at 12:15 and everybody's cleared off the deck from the aquafit, it's 12:20, 12:25. Then people come in at 1 and they're removing the ropes for the lane at 12:50. So that leaves people 35 minutes to swim. And seniors, of course, who cannot swim, are also then going in, and everybody's huddled up, crowded up, trying to organize themselves so the slower swimmers are in one place, the faster swimmers are in another. But it's difficult, and it impacts on the quality of life for our seniors. And we are nombreux now, because we're much more than was done at the last, what do you call it, the sondage for survey. And
So you would like more seniors'
We
time.
would like
And so,
more
but
seniors'
let's remember, in general swim, everybody's welcome. It's a pool for everybody.
But the issue
not
is,
club. Yeah.
swimming in a lane when people are playing, where there's no lanes, when people are playing Marco Polo. And they play it fine when there's 3 lanes. They just play in that center. But when there's no 3 lanes, there's 1 lane, which is used a lot of the times to test kids to see if they can swim the length. Then nobody has any place to swim, and they're constantly being bashed by kids jumping in the pool or backing into
And they're swimming
you.
in general swim, which
Yeah.
is open to
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah. So it's not.
As I said, it's hard to find the balance in this schedule because there are many people who want to use the pool and many users of it.
Well,
And
yeah,
there's
I mean, I'm
families-
there, I see it, I sometimes stay till 2, or I sometimes come at 4, and it's not all that crowded every day. So I think the flexibility issue that Claire mentioned would be a good one.
Okay, thank you. So that's noted of, your
thank
request
you.
is to have more flexibility to add lanes if
Yes.
desperately needed.
I do have a suggestion for the senior swim, but it would take too much time, so if some.
So you're welcome to email it to me.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Hi, Alexia Winter-Reinhold, Dorchester. I'm back.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to see you again. So basically, one thing I just wanted to clarify was that a lot of times, I think people in my area, we heard that the 480 was a recommendation or something we should do. But like, are we legally bound to it?
Yes.
Like we could get sued?
But it's not necessarily how cities work, but we are obligated to act within the law, yes.
But a lot of other, I think, official documents, like she pointed out, and some others that we had seen, it was all stated as a recommendation.
So all of the legal counsel that we have been given, including that of experts in urban planning, has indicated that, and we know that this is getting passed. We know we've seen it past June 9th, it's coming. The media that one of the questioners was also referring to, I mean, I've spoken at length to those members of the agglomeration, and I would say I'd have a different take on their perspective of that. But yes, density is required in certain areas.
But I keep hearing perspective, but like there is no perspective if it's like against the law.
I didn't use the word perspective. Did I use the word perspective?
Before, you guys were just talking about like perspective, the way like, let's say your legal counsel is like interpreting it.
The legal counsel is the recommendation, and the indication is that this is the number.
Okay.
Want to add anything to that?
Oh, sorry.
No. Okay.
Okay. Another
Thank
one
you.
was just that, like, to build townhouses on Dorchester, for example, would that be like totally unbelievable?
What do you mean? Would it be totally
Like, we just
unbelievably
couldn't do that?
Single-family homes?
Yes, kind of similar what's on the opposite side of Dorchester and in the streets, like close to that.
So we own a lot of those lots.
Yes.
And just because we are allowing certain heights, like there's, and it's the same thing on St. Catherine Street. A building owner doesn't have to build to 20 stories, but they can if it gets passed. And we have looked at what makes sense. And to meet density targets, what we had looked at was stacked townhouses. And there's still quite a bit of space between your house and what's across the street, right? I get it. Across the street from you now is empty, so it's not a blocked view or anything.
Yeah.
But what it would be a setback, a stacked townhouse with a setback, with greenery, with trees where there are no real trees there to speak of. And so that would sort of be the vision for the area. Do we think that single-family homes make sense in that area? I think that would be, we'd been given no advice or guidance that would be the best use of it, to have single-family homes on that strip. But townhouses, a bit like, your neighborhood, they're very high as well. Yours are
They're like, the highest ones are four stories, I guess, including basement.
But
maybe
four
that's
very
three.
high stories, right? So
Yeah.
there's significant height on it. Do you want to add anything to this? Or Kathleen Kez, would you like to say anything?
I'll jump in
As
just
the
on a
counselor
couple
for the
of
area?
things.
I'm in agreement with you. I won't say anything more.
So you would like single-family homes on... That's
Well,
not a single-family home.
Exactly. I think if I understand your request specifically, you were saying basically why not mirror what's on the south side of the street with
Yeah.
mirror on the north, what's on the south side of the
Yeah,
street.
just also, can I just say one more thing?
Please.
Because obviously I understand that density, whether that's very complicated, I guess. But by St. Catherine, there's a lot of high buildings anyways. I don't think like anyone, maybe like a few people, but like not generally.
Look behind you.
Turn around.
Right?
Turn around.
No, opposed to like if we're talking 20 stories, fine, that's fair to be opposed to that. But like, I'm talking like 7 to 15. I think the majority of people aren't opposed to that,
Currently
like
zone 7.
right by St. Catherine. It's more like the behind that actually, when you're in Westmount, residential Westmount, that I think is the problem. That's,
So you would like single-family home on Dorchester is
yes.
is your request?
Yes,
Okay.
and I think if
Yeah,
the,
your request is noted.
a few of the people who spoke before me, and even like June 18th, well, I just blanked out. But I think they were, oh yes, they were saying that like there's a lot of apartment buildings, even condos that are newly built that are empty. So why would ours necessarily sell more just to say you live in Westmount? Like so like
if
maybe having townhouses would be better.
Okay, so I hear all of your points. Now, to address them one by one. Imagine 3 stories on the other side of the street. Now, that makes perfect sense to me. But it made perfect sense when Dorchester was a local street 60 years ago, and the street was 50 feet wide. Now it's 90 feet wide. It's not the same condition anymore. If we had three-story townhouses, like on the south side of the street, on those lots, then we would not reach the density thresholds. So that's the regulatory side of that question.
Okay.
But additionally, because though that land has such value, the properties that would be likely to be built there, those townhouses, they would have to be sufficiently expensive that it would be probably in opposition to what a lot of we're hearing about affordability. And I'll give you an example. The last time in recent history that we've built row houses in Westmount was on the block of Hillside. And there are 4 townhouses that were built, I think, 4 years ago on Hillside at the corner of Metcalf. They are where the old medical building was. Relatively shallow lots. I won't say that they are very large townhouses. The most inexpensive of them on Hillside, facing
An HLM.
social housing on the other side of the street, is $2.1 million. Now, imagine that same program, but probably a larger townhouse, a row of townhouse, on more expensive land, on a more prominent street, and I will leave you to guess at what those houses would command. And even if they were buildable and marketable, we would not reach the density thresholds.
But on the plans, last time there was something to make Dorchester smaller anyways, no?
You should have been here 8 years ago.
The dramatically different approach 8 years ago where Dorchester was significantly narrowed and you took out it wasn't narrowed, it was, one of the recommendations was to take out the median and to bring that green space to the side and seriously narrow the street and sharpen the curve and make significant changes to the road was one of the recommendations at the time.
Yeah, so I would agree.
This is leaving the width of Dorchester as is.
If, for instance, there was a proposition on the table, if I could finish, if, for instance, there was a proposition on the table to revert back to the 1960s profile, where Dorchester was restored to a local street, and that made sense that it was 50 feet, we had 50 feet of public domain.
Yeah.
Then in terms of the human scale of the street, that makes sense because the buildings are much closer together. But now we've effectively got a boulevard. And when we gave the community that idea of narrowing Dorchester, let's just say it didn't go very well.
No, but I'm talking about on June 18th when the guy proposed the plan. Did he not mention making Dorchester smaller?
The guy? Well, okay. So making the Esplanade narrower, but then so giving up the public domain to the private and making those lots deeper. That was.
Yes, to have an Esplanade on the walkable side by the housing. Okay.
Right, but
I think we've got to go to the next question.
For sure, but the buildings, the houses would still be at the same point. It's just what's in front of the houses has been changed from street to public domain.
Like with this new development, is what you're talking about?
which, with the proposal that is under review right now.
So the driving part would be like narrower? Yes. Yeah.
Walkway.
Okay. So there's no way of like making that smaller and instead putting townhouses?
Okay, I think what we're hearing from you is that you want single-family homes on Dorchester.
Yes.
And what I think Councillor Peard has responded is that that is a difficult scenario to do in terms of meeting density targets. We do understand that this is a significant change for those that live facing it, because whether you like what you're facing now or not, which I think a lot of you will say, I don't want to live across from a kind of burnt out parking lot that collects garbage and other things at nighttime. But you would prefer single-family homes, which were, if we could all go back in history, none of them would have been destroyed in 1960
Yes, but like
to begin
to
with.
reach
So we're
that,
dealing
to
with
make it possible, would that be like a possibility?
what we're looking at, what we don't feel we can meet the density targets, or realistically what the neighborhood, like the best configuration for the neighborhood. But your points are noted, and we will discuss them.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Aronson, we should move on, though. We're very late into the question period, and I think, and we have a lot of online questions. Hi, next question.
Yeah, Dr. Reinhold, 4064 Dorchester. So just a couple of comments and questions. Again, I'd just like to bring up the whole density issue. I think we've heard one of our fellow citizens discuss that. So it seems to be a little bit of a gray zone, if you wish, maybe open to interpretation, like even the law can be. But it's often presented, and has been from the very beginning, a real fait accompli. And I think that's probably not the way it is. And it causes citizens just to throw up their hands and say there's nothing that we can do. So that's a comment. The other, what I wanted to also discuss before we just, pass zoning laws, because you keep on mentioning, Mayor Smith, that, developers don't have to build up to 25 stories if we allow them. But we all know, you're just talking about profit. They want the big fat profits, and that means, building up. And so that's, we need to sort of really look at the vision. It's not clear to me at this point, even if we're looking at the taller buildings, let's say on St. Catherine, I don't want to even use that word for Dorchester, but the taller buildings for St. Catherine, what are these units going to look like? Who are we really targeting? And, one of the things that I'm concerned about, and we've seen that, and I think one of our neighbors wrote you a very nice email, and again, put a lot of work into that. And one of the things that we're really worried about is if you have these small shoeboxes, which will give the so-called required density, or, we always flip back. We say required density, then we quickly say, well, anyhow, the developers won't build. So we're always looking to make the developers happy, and, and we'll use the arguments that we can to make that happen. But what we don't want to see is that we have units that end up being very interesting to speculators. And that we've seen. If you look at the Yule building, which is a little bit further down, it's not in our neighborhood, but it's owned by foreign investors mostly. And as we know, foreign investment drives up prices faster than anything else. So if we're looking at affordability, I think we need to look at who do we want to live there. If it's going to be transient, it's going to be speculative, prices will go up. If we're targeting families, and we'd all love the one-family homes, but there's other options. There's row houses that can have like a duplex, triplex type. It doesn't have to be one family in one building, or I keep on bringing that beautiful development on Jean Girard opposite the Atwater, which has a whole sort of, it's a row, but it's not just one family homes. There's multiple apartments, but it's beautifully done in terms of the stonework. So there's other ways to, sort of play with, whatever that density sort of should be. So that's one question. I think just allowing for a certain height, but not looking what do we want, and having these downstream effects of speculators, buying up these condos, foreign speculators, that's a disaster. And we have that Vancouver, we have it Toronto, and now it's happening in Montreal also since many years. I don't want it in Westmount. I certainly don't want it in our little southeast sector. That's one question, comment. The other thing was the whole thing about the infrastructure. We talk about costs, we talk about tax income, but, you know, again, the whole infrastructure that's needed and the cost to that, and the fact that it's a small area, planned high density, parking, et cetera, et cetera. What makes, you know, things attractive in Canada is that you do have a parking space. So all those things, you know, I don't see that feasibility, and especially looking at the children's place where we know that there's a lot of, you know, vacancies. So what has been done sort of in that regard? So those are, you know, sort of two of my important questions.
Thank you for your questions, for your comments. I'm not going to, I don't know if I'll get into the speculation part of it. I can't dictate who's going to, much like people often ask me, you know, how can one owner buy up, you know, a significant part of the commercial area in the Victoria Village? It's not, we can't always control that. And you made a comment about the developers as well, that it's, that they're just, it's, you know, my concern is not to help developers make money. My concern is to help put in place the zoning that will revitalize this neighborhood. There is no, like, nobody can disagree that this neighborhood needs significant improvement. And what's currently in place, and what we have seen be in place for decades now, has proven that what's there is not working. And we have to be realistic about that. And so I see that there's two different areas. We don't, so a lot of people will say we don't want the status quo, but we don't want you to, like, there's a certain threshold that we are going to have to meet. There is a certain threshold that we will have to adopt for it to be realistic for anything to actually be done. And what we want on Dorchester are families in stacked townhouses, in beautiful materials, in projects that will have to meet Category 1 standards in Westmount. When you build new in Westmount, you're expected to build a Category 1 home. That's what we would like for that area. It's deliberate that there's not 20 stories or 30 stories that are being placed on Dorchester.
Right, but there's possible of incentive 12. I mean, that is really nowhere near even, you know, we're talking about some kind of a match towards South Dorchester.
So, and that's
huge jump. That's
what
not
we have looked at is scaling it up towards St. Catherine Street, which already has the height. That height exists on St. Catherine Street, matches it. To this day, it's been there for decades. And that's what we're looking to match on the south side of the street, because we know there is a reality that we have to deal with on St. Catherine Street. And it's, Councillor Peart has often used this analogy, is that, you know, St. Catherine Street is almost, it's like the patient on the table in the ER. It's in dire need of help. And Dorchester, we've spent a lot of time discussing and going back and forth with the urban planners and pushing them to find, you know, what is, it's got to be that beautiful design. And, you know, the Agile report had come out with sort of, you know, courtyard plan. I don't know if you saw the Agile report years ago, but that too had called for some densification. Every time we try and go at this exercise, it requires some densification for it to make sense. I think what you're asking for is for it to be lower, facing the south side of Dorchester. And that is, you know, something.
Because that's to, you know, again, close in the community, because my concern is if, you know, that whole community has high rises up and it's not, then they're gonna, you know, people are gonna sell and leave.
So there's no intention for high rises on those lots, on the parking lots that are there now. The intention is to have scaled housing that will go up a little bit as you get, but to have a setback after 3 stories, and to have it try and match that setback matches and mirrors the side of the street. In fact, the 3 stories in there is lower than the south side of Dorchester.
Because it'd be nice to have, you know, again, there's zoning and then there's sort of plans, and then the other, you know, again, my comment regarding my concern, and that includes even, you know, on St. Catherine, what kind of units will be built, what population are we targeting, to avoid that we have consistency, stability, not turn around, and the investors are the ones, the speculators are the ones who really benefit from that.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
And, no, I'm
Can I just jump on a couple of points?
Yeah, and there's one, yeah.
Because
can
you've
I-
asked a lot,
okay.
you've asked a lot of questions, and I'm trying to,
Okay.
if you ask another one, I probably won't remember the answer to my first one. Speculation, it was certainly a concern a few years ago. The federal government has stepped in and has dramatically taken measures to reduce foreign speculation.
If it's
The
10%, that's not doing it.
As I'm sure many of you have been reading, the condominium market has changed dramatically.
Yeah, and rental.
there is far less, almost no new condo construction that is taking place in these current times. What's being built instead is rental units. You're also mentioning the kind of units that are attractive. The way that it is, or the way our current zoning exists right now, our heights are low, and it forces, the only choices left to a property owner are to build to the full plate of that property, which means that any apartment building has either a choice of looking out at the front of the building or looking out at the back of the building. What's being proposed here are towers. The towers mean they're pulled in from the side. The towers mean that you can have windows on 4 sides. If you have windows on 4 sides, that means you have 4 corner units. Once you have 4 corner units, that's your best chance of getting multi-bedroom units rather than having units only facing the back and the forth. So the building form really influences the typology and the diversity of the units that are possible. Because right now, it doesn't work with a building that
Right
just...
now, it's a wall. What's currently zoned is a wall of 7 stories.
It's a wall of 7
nothing,
stories.
No view on
And
the
it's
sides.
actually, the current zoning is the kind of zoning that invites really small units, hotel-size units, where you just have 1 window wall, 1 bedroom, 1 living room. It's tailor-made for that kind of a unit. But once you pull in from the sides and you go up, so you spread that same floor area. Instead of spreading it out, you spread it up. It unlocks a different kind of units that are available for the occupants. And if you want to get 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom units, it's with point towers. It's not with a low building.
So in the interest of time, thank you for your questions. We are always available if you want to reach out and discuss more.
Just one very brief comment. Just in terms of feedback from the citizens, are we all equal? Or the people who actually are going to, who live in the southeast sector, have lived there for a long time, do our voices count more or not? Or it's all sort of equal. So someone living up on the boulevard, has the same voice as, for example, I do. As a question.
So when I hear your feedback, I understand it that it's coming from a lens as someone who lives across the street. Your council member also lives on that street, like she represents that whole area. But it is, of course, all Westmount are, the vision of this also was that this was a project for all of Westmount, that it was the entry point to our city as well, but taking into consideration the key component as part of the goals that was stated all along was to knit the urban fabric back together, to have that connection. Because right now, you are cut off by parking lots and that sit empty for most of the day, or for 12 hours a day. So that the important thing was to knit that community back together and to bring more vibrancy to the area, bring more residents,
Yeah, which we actually all agree, but I'm just thinking of the story of the patient, the husband and the wife, and the husband can't give consent, and, so the surgeon tells the wife, it's very risky, but the wife is thinking about the life insurance and says to the surgeon, sure, go ahead with it. So that's the background.
I'll leave that analogy. I feel like Madame Roux would enjoy that analogy. No, Madame Roux is known for her allergies. Okay, we are very over time here, so we will be mindful of time, and I see there's several people behind you, Mr. Breslaw, so.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. John Breslaw, Grosvenor Avenue. Before I start, I have a very quick question. As you know, the presentation that was made by Urban Planning was very polished at the June the 18th consultation. Figures, presentation, the whole lot. It was impressive. My question, was the data and the presentation effectively done by LeMay, or was it done by urban planning?
It was done by our urban planning team.
With information from LeMay, or they did it totally in-house?
I would imagine they got some input from LeMay. They got a lot of input from council, and they would have gotten input from outside legal counsel as well.
Okay. So,
but I don't want to, I didn't
hear that, right.
I'll let Monsieur, if you would like to, I know that you are
in contact with Frederick,
well
yes.
aware of his email. You can write him that question.
So, the public consultation for this special planning process is unusual. It's unusual because it does not allow a referendum. Rather, in place of a referendum, it stipulates a public, open, transparent consultation. The specs are fairly clear in A19.1, the law under which we do this, Article 83 or 84. This consultation is hugely important. If it's not done right, we're dead. So this consultation was really important. Now, Conrad, Councillor Fess, Madam Mayor, you've said to a number of responses here, we can't do that if we're going to satisfy our density requirements. And that has come through many, many times in this hearing, this council meeting. So we have to look at those density requirements for a second. When Frederick presented, we are part of the hypercenter, we have to do 460 net per units per acre, hectare. It seemed to me that was kind of high. After the meeting, I went down and looked at the same document that Carol looked at. That's the PMAD, Appendix 2, 17 TODs, which states fairly categorically that Westmount is not part of the hypercenter, it is part of the Vendôme mix. And instead of having 460, it has 480, it has 260 units. 260 is very, very different from 480. So, hey, two things. So I wrote to Frederick and said, what's up? Here's the appendix. And he replied to me.
Sure you're going to get to your question?
I'm definitely getting there. And he replied to me, it is a typo, it'll be corrected next version. Well, that sounded hogwash to me, but I took it as face value, went back and said, okay, there's something going on here. Let's find out what. So I wrote to Lawrence Clare of the CMM, and I asked him a very simple, direct, succinct question. What is the TOD requirement for the threshold density for Westmount at the Atwater site? And is that going to be
undeveloped land?
And he replied, Westmount, at the request of the agglomeration, at the request of the agglomeration, wanted to be excluded, and that has happened, and we have Westmount is not part of the hypercenter, implying that Westmount is not having to do 480, it's having to do 200.
I would love to see from the CMM the documentation that says that Westmount asked to be excluded from that.
Oh, I'll send it to you, no problem. Now, this is very important because, as I said before, when you have a public consultation, it has to be transparent. It has to be, at the minimum, based on the truth. My statement and Lawrence Clare's statement from the CMM is unambiguous, totally unambiguous. And I don't really care what your legal people outside say. It's the CMM that counts. And the CMM says 260, not 480. Now, if you remember, the presentation was very clear. 480, we have to go and do this. Here are the various scenarios, 360, 380, etc., based on that. And the public consultation, which is kind of important, no referendum, was predicated on that. If a public consultation is predicated on a falsehood, we have problems. We have real problems. Now,
It wasn't?
okay, we will go back to that at a later stage.
And sorry, Mr. Breslaw, let's just for 1 second here presume that the city has acted in good faith and has gone through several rounds of public consultations. The city has gone out to several experts, has dealt with the CMM and the AGLO on this extensively over the past 2 years. That we have also sought out legal counsel on top of anything that has, come from internally or from LeMay. I know LeMay is like sort of become a 4-letter word around here, which it shouldn't be, but it is. So we have gone to extreme lengths. So let's just presume for one moment that the city is acting in good faith and on the best advice that's available. And so what I have seen in my experience as mayor, when people are opposed to a project, and there's many, you want to build anything, people are opposed. Mm-hmm. And the same argument is always that you're doing it illegally. And I have, on every single project that we have done, we have gone through hoops to show that it is not illegal. So I would just be very, very careful if you are accusing us of acting.
I didn't say that. Okay. I didn't say you were acting in bad faith. I was saying that the presentation was based on a fact that was not, according to the CMM, true. Which means
not
that the
according to the CMM when we discuss with them, but okay.
I will send you the comment from.
So I think what will clarify this is that the city will put out a statement that will clarify exactly what are the requirements for densification for this area, which will hopefully clarify all of that for you.
So my question, Madam Mayor.
And we will cite our sources.
That's okay. I will
Thank
cite
you.
mine. But let me come to my question. We had a public consultation, and you stated at the beginning that you will have taken note of the public consultation and will make a number of changes, etc., as a consequence, which is...
I think that's a...
Overstatement?
Well, whatever. Okay, just
Okay.
ask your question.
So my question, the real question that comes forward is, when or if changes are going to be made, will us lot, the taxpayers, be informed of this prior to the September the 4th voting?
I believe it's September the
8th.
8th. We would, yes, certainly there are many opportunities where we could share with the public any of those changes. And then
So
it'll be voted upon.
So those will happen in the August meeting, presumably?
Yes, and can happen via, we can share information constantly via our website and different.
In other words, we do have the right to be kept au fait with your changing thoughts on this.
We will share if there is any significant update to this, and the expectation, and the calendar was set ages ago, 2 years ago, that this is what, and are we going to please everybody? Absolutely not. Are we going to please most of the people in this room? Probably not. But that's why they're in the room. But I can assure you, I know many of you don't believe me. We hear from a lot of people that have a very different point of view than you on this one.
I understand.
And so we're trying to find the balance between
housing
those
shortage, exactly, housing affordability. There's no shortages in terms of, I know, Children's Square, whatever. That much is clear. Affordability is a whole other matter.
Affordability is an issue, and
zoning's
accessibility
not
on the
gonna
island of Montreal is a massive issue. There's a reason
Absolutely.
why all the builders have gone offshore, off island, and are building an hour away where you have to commute into the city, which then makes it very difficult to hire people to work in the city.
Lastly, very lastly.
Thank you.
Alexis Neon has a wall along the north side of St. Catherine. In the original zoning, etc., for Alexis Neon, the idea was that there would be shops on the street.
Yep.
Can I respectfully, I'm most respectful, can I respectfully suggest that when doing the sidewalks on St. Catherine, Let's get that bit in place. It's a move in the direction that we need to have.
We all agree with you, Mr. Breslau, on that one.
Good, let's make it happen.
Yeah, and having a more vibrant streetscape as opposed to blacked out windows. Next question. And then after this, after Mr. Lee, we will have to move into the next part of the agenda. And there is a second question period for those who'd like to stick around for another hour and a half.
All right, I'll make it quick.
Welcome.
So first of all, well, my name is Sorab. I think you guys know me by now.
Sorab,
Alavi.
could you give your last name?
Sorab Alavi.
Yep.
I support the PPU and their revitalization plan. One thing that's really clear, and no one can argue against this, is that every level of government, including the CMHC, says we need more housing, we need to build more, and we need more density. And affordability is a direct relation with supply and demand. That's the easiest way to address affordability. So I've attended a lot of these meetings the past year, the public consultations, the council meetings. And one thing that has been clear to me now is that in these meetings, the demographic of Westmount is not represented. We're in a bit of a bubble here, and I hope council realizes that. These meetings don't represent the Westmount population, in my opinion. The city of Westmount has 20,000 residences. 75 to 80% of those residences are below the age of 65. When I attend these meetings, the majority of the people who are here, of which most of them are opposing, don't fit in that demographic. There's nothing wrong with that, but they represent the 20% that are above the age of 65, and I'm being maybe generous in some instance. It's the same 20 to 30 people that always show up and oppose and scream the loudest. Majority of the people that show up, again, they're retired or semi-retired. It is not the representation of the future of Westmount, the younger generation. Well, that's her opinion. The problem is that the working families, the young population of Westmount, don't have the time to attend these meetings. They're working, they're busy, they're raising their children. So what is council doing in order to make sure that you hear the Westmount population and are not simply relying on these meetings to make their decision? You need to go out there and go into the parks on the weekends and speak to the young generation of Westmount and ask them what they think of this plan and revitalizing St. Catherine, what their thought is in St. Catherine, and tell them we want to build 20 stories and see how many of them freak out. It is ludicrous that in today's day and age, while all levels of government, federal, provincial, municipal, are calling for more density, we're here, we've been for a year trying to convince the population to build a 20-story tower. It's honestly embarrassing. So my question again is, what is council doing to reach beyond this room to truly hear the broader population of Westmount?
So thank you for your question, and you have participated in all the public consultations, so I thank you for that. And I do recognize for many in the room who have participated in them, there's lots of other things you'd probably rather be doing on a summer night than be here, but you are participating, and we agree with it. And we want to hear from everybody, from all aspects of the community, and I'm very present in the community, so I am all over the place. I'm in parks. I have 3 kids in schools. I have, we're at events. And it is true. I know it's hard to believe for some people, but it is true that many of them are saying, just solve it. Do whatever it takes to solve it so that the street is revitalized and that the street changes in terms of its safety, its dynamic. Like, the state of it is unacceptable. So a lot of people will say to us, we elected you to make decisions, not to endlessly consult. And the consultation on this is extremely important. And this has been going on since when I came on council 12 years ago, this was an issue. The people before that, it was an issue. It's been an issue since they tore down the houses on Dorchester. So there's always going to be opposition, but I think what we're trying to do is strike the balance of what will be the right mix and usage and to revitalize. What will it take to make it happen? Also, we have to be realistic about. And lower the heights and lower the density. You know, I can't really lower the density, but I could, you know, try and lower the heights and fiddle with those things. But to what end if it's not going to actually bring any results? So when we raised it from 3 to 7, I was told by then, I presume that everybody else on council was also told by then, by experts that were urban planning experts, like, well, that's going to lose you 10 years, but you can feel good about your vote. And so here we are, 12 years later, we have to move it forward. Something has to, this is not sustainable. What is there is not sustainable. When you close, 2 metro entrances on the island of Montreal have been closed. One is at Cabot Square. That's a big deal. For those of you who don't understand that, that is a significant, that takes extreme reasons to close a metro entrance. So I'm proud that we've gotten it this far, but we are not done. And in all the research we've done, I know there's lots of, like, everybody here is trying to trip us up and pretend that nobody knew what they were doing at public meetings and things like that. In all the research that's been done, one of my favorite little things that I found, might have been you that found it and sent it to me, but I'll take credit for it, in my research, was that when Westmount Square was being built, there obviously was outcry and opposition, and Westmount Square legitimately tore down, when Westmount Square was built, they tore down homes to build Westmount Square. The opposition was led by the person who owned and built the 4300. So he was part of the anti-Westmount, like, so it's just, this is not new. This is not new, and council being yelled at for trying to do this is not new. But I think we are trying to get to the best outcome for the community. So a long-winded answer to, we are very present in the community. We represent different areas and different backgrounds, and we all have different jobs and know different people. And I think most people are hearing, like, just solve the problem. I don't know if you want to add anything, and then we'll move on, because we got to get to the next part of the agenda.
I don't have much to add. I've got a 6-year-old. I'm in the parks. I'm at the tennis courts. I'm in the pool.
Ballet.
Ballet. Don't forget about ballet. Yes, we're, like the mayor says, we're out there and we're talking to everybody.
Perfect, because I think when we come here, we get kind of brainwashed sometimes, and you leave and you're like, what happened? But this is not representative of the Westmount demographic. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, final question. Oh, I see
Right.
2 people snuck in after Mr. Lee.
Yeah, so Mike Lee.
Even though I declared Mr. Lee was the last question.
Yeah, so Mike Lee, 25 Sainer. So I am a Westmount resident, also have 3 kids. Very proud to be. Thanks, first of all, for all the hard work and patience. I've only been seeing this the last while. There's a lot going on behind. I appreciate it. I think St. Catharines, something definitely needs to be done. It's too bad the Dawson project, the funding got pulled from the provincial government, but
I wholeheartedly share your disappointment in that.
And when I was here last time too, I did speak, and I thought the comments of Jonathan Wiener were actually pretty good. He's a very established developer, as you know, and maybe it's right. If we're going to build something downtown, it needs to be nice, it needs to be good. This is some of the most valuable land in the island of Montreal we're looking at here. This is really well positioned. I think it needs to be nice. It needs to be well done. Class 1 all the way here, and maybe it does go higher. Not everyone will agree with me, but on St. Catherine, but 4 of them right next to each other, they're pretty tight. And you may not get the best, I looked at it, looked very closely at it, and they're going to be pretty close to each other, and there's not going to be a lot of space. But something needs to be done, and I think, there needs to be some kind of towers there. So this is my opinion. I'm, in that kind of Stainer area, I do hear from a lot of other neighbors as well, so I think a lot of them kind of agree something to be done, and we experience it more than anyone else. The one thing I'll say doing it, the tricky part is I did have to move out this past year for 6 months. I was in Tour de Canada, and they had a fire alarm at 7 in the morning. 30 people left the building. It's 55 stories high, so it's completely empty. So there's all these buildings, and it's foreign owned. It's basically, so I hope that if we're going to try and get the mandate of, hey, we want to get more people involved, more housing available, that, taxation-wise, I realize that's probably not, it's more of a federal and provincial thing, but just to keep in mind. So that's just a little commentary. That's not really a question, and this is something I think you can solve either. I find it is kind of, it's kind of hard to kind of really do low-income housing or rural housing. This is very expensive land, that you're going to get, it's either going to work well and people who are, are willing to pay are going to get it, or it's going to be a failed project and anything will go on in there. So I do kind of encourage to kind of, go for it. In terms of Dorchester, it's pretty different in my mind. And I did like the comment from the young woman who got up and spoke. It's a different thing. Now you're into a different vibe. I wonder if there's space that can be put in between. There is a residential, right now you're saying it's the street, one side of the street's kind of,
And when you mean space, do you mean widen the street to or to set back even further from the street? Is that what you're asking for space?
Yeah, no, it's more like we kind of have, now the way it's being set up, it's 3 rows of buildings. There's St. Catherine, there's Tupper, so you're really going to have just rows and rows of buildings, and they're all pretty close together. So it's a lot of, but, I don't know where the densification is. Maybe one other sub-question is, or one comment, which you kind of answered, is that I think it'd be really nice to get the legal opinion that we can all read, because we seem to be getting mixed messages.
So we will share that. We will share that online.
And right from the lawyers would be nice. I realize we can get a nice letter saying this should be this and that could be this, but I want to see, if possible.
Okay, so just to summarize.
Yeah, one last thing I'll just throw in,
okay.
and then I'll be done, is I think the other thing that's really nice and I think we'd really appreciate is some green space. Ground level. Right now there's a little park on Dorchester. It's not huge, it's used, it's full of people all the time. I walk by there, it's full of people. That's going to be taken away. Cabot Square doesn't have a lot, it's been...
Yeah, Cabot Square is very mineral.
It's very mineral. There's no, at least leave as much, grass, ground space as there is today. And there's a nice little park. There's nothing going on. There's some trees.
On the Kevrick land.
Yes, I think that's it, right?
Okay.
So some kind of park, some kind of place where people can get together to break up the 3 rows.
So that was certainly some feedback that was shared, I think, by all people, like how can we integrate some more green space, and just even in tiny pockets or more tree or whatever it may be. Just, it's a bit like when you walk around Manhattan and you finally hit a certain area and you see a tree and it's like, whoa, we're going from 0, right? Essentially, It's like asphalt.
Well, there's that one park, right?
Yeah.
Right now.
So so the direction has been given to try and find some more spots for green space for areas.
Yeah, so to me that actually is a big thing, and that could separate Dorchester from the others.
And the Dorchester, how we treat that has also been taken into consideration, how important that is to have greenery and green space along Dorchester.
Yeah, okay.
And then in terms of the Tour de Canadien, that's a whole other long debate as to,
It's more of a comment. I don't think you can solve that one here.
But what I think I would just like to say is that when people move to this area, and hopefully, and listen, this is not going to happen overnight. This is a long process. We're not going to see buildings necessarily overnight.
Right.
Is that you're moving to a community, and you're not moving to a community at the Tour de Canadien. There's no hockey team like your kids have played on.
Having said that,
coached on, and
there's a park across the street, and there's a big dog park there. There's actually...
There are some amenities, but you are truly moving into, when you move into Westmount, you are moving into a great community.
That's why I live in Westmount, right? I don't live down there, but, I think when you go high, you should also bring in more green. I think they kind of go together.
Well, I think for Mr. Wiener's comments at the end, where he is advocating for, 30-plus stories, that was to allow, he felt it was, more space in between if we did go up to 30, 35 stories.
We can do more down lower, release more green space. So there's none now, but we could do some.
We are going to move on because we have had said you were the last.
Just to clarify, it's a podium with towers on it. Both options are podium. There would be a podium, 2 towers, podium, and 4 towers.
Yeah, my ask is, can we put in a green a park?
Okay, so your ask is noted. But we had said that Mr. Lee was the last question. We're now 2 hours into question period, which is an hour over. Okay, well, we'll go, and I see, Ms. Olson, that's your second question, so before we do second questions, we're going to do the agenda, and then we have questions online that people have been waiting as well. So we'll wait till everybody else has had a chance to ask one before you go into your second.
I just have a comment and question about the Dorchester.
And
Boulevard.
your name, sorry?
My name is Brigitte Barrette. I live on Dorchester. about the Dorchester Boulevard section of the SC project. In the 1960s, as you know, 40 houses were demolished on the north side of Dorchester following urbanist recommendations. It resulted in the destruction of a residential boulevard and the emptiness filled by a parking lot owned by the city. There are different ways to destroy a neighborhood: demolition or building of inappropriate buildings that destroy the original vocation and patrimonial heritage of a sector. That is exactly what will happen if the construction of 5 to 12 stories buildings occur. There are no reasons for this, and the 480 units, I will agree that we don't agree. I think that it's not mandatory, but it's a recommendation. We are still living the poor results of the 1960s recommendation. The restoration of the north side of Dorchester is not only a task, but an obligation to correct the immeasurable mistake of the 1960s. It requires the restoration of a residential boulevard by the construction of similar residence from the south side. Therefore, 3 stories building can only be the norm. It has to mirror the south side like nothing happened 60 years ago. Why? There are multiple reasons. Number 1, the construction of 7 to 12 stories building will not reduce the homelessness seen on Cabot Square and around Plaza Alexineo. The proof is the statu quo of the area after the building of the children complex, despite a promise that the attraction of that clientele would improve the situation. It did not. Number 2, homelessness is a complex issue that will not be being solved by the construction of 12 stories building on Dorchester. However, it is not seen in truly residential sections of Westmount. The reason is that you have ownership and true neighbors that watch over. Number 3, the so-called high density with apartments of 500 square feet to even 1,500 square feet will attract a mobile or nomad clientele such as students or early career individuals. They will not have any ownership or appartenance to the green sector. It is, for sure, not the type of clientele that will go shopping in fancy boutiques or galleries on Green Avenue. Those towers will become a Walmart towers that will not support our communities, but only bring money to the investors and the city by its municipal taxes. Green Avenue will be at higher risk of becoming a ghost avenue like what Walmart did to many small cities' downtown center. Those Walmart towers are not the type of building that will attract and retain families which we are looking for to restore a safe and pleasant sector. It is easy to fall in the trap of urbanism. It takes courage to listen to the people who live in the area and to correct the mistakes of the past. Imagine entering Westmount by René Lévesque into Dorchester and seeing a harmonious boulevard of residences that literally would be the envy of any city. On the flip side, imagine entering the same boulevard and seeing 12 stories building across patrimonial residences would be a mockery and a derision. It takes courage to do the right thing. So my question, what prevents you from creating a project that is in harmony with the south side of Dorchester Boulevard, a project that will attract families, create safety, and be a source of pride? Thank you for listening, and I know it's late, so.
So I'll just address a few of your comments. I don't know if you had emailed those to us as well. I think that It takes courage to do the right thing. It takes courage not to continue the despair of this neighborhood, in particular on St. Catherine Street. It's not easy to do. If this were easy to do, it would have been done. Yeah, so we are looking at this as an entire area for the PPU we had decided that we would look at, and this is the advice of, you know, the leading urban planner and architectural heritage consultant at Clément Demers years ago said, you need to look at this as a PPU, so you do not do, you know, spot zoning and deal with these buildings one at a time. Our goal is that families are living in Dorchester, and that those families are going to buy coffee, and that young people, I would love it if students lived there, if young people lived there, if people under 30 lived there. They buy things. Truly, they buy things. If we want to look at keeping our commercial sector alive, that will take young people, that will take families, and that will take a revitalization of this neighborhood. So it does, I do agree with you, it does take courage. And it's a very important, and when you come through Dorchester, my hope is that with 3 stories, with a setback of stacked townhouses that are built to Westmount's exceptional standards, there is nowhere else that has the standards that Westmount has in terms of architectural integration with, you know, if you want to build something on Dorchester, you're going to have to show us how that integrates with the community, how it integrates with the south side. But I don't have anything against students, and I don't have anything against young people that want to live here. And I hope that seniors are able to continue to stay in their neighborhood. Last question, and then we're moving to the next part of the agenda.
I would write to you more, like, because I already write to you, and then I join my voice with all my neighbors, because I'm on Dorchester. I'm resident of Dorchester, corner of Clendeboy. So, and I won't repeat what they said, and I will come my comment. So I have 2 questions.
Your name?
Quinn from Dorchester.
Quinn, sorry, that's your last name? Ms.
Pham.
Pham Quinn?
Pham, yes.
Okay.
So if any further question, I would write it to you. I don't want to let. 2 things that I would like on record is there any current construction, like street, pipe, gas line, electricity, that example on Green and Dorchester, it's been done in perspective of Southeast project? Or is it any planning for?
Our engineering team has planning for years out, and we have, you know, we're about to repave Wood Avenue. But are we? And it is an area that is currently serviced. It is in the past serviced the Children's Hospital. If you're talking about hydro, but no, we're not building
like
water connections for a building
sewer,
that hasn't been
pipe, electricity in the current project in perspective of Southeast project.
We will invest in the roads. Do you want to? Can you take this one?
Yep. So there is already infrastructure work that is planned in the sector, irrespective of what is planned in the PPU.
Okay.
There is a lot of infrastructure work that needs to be done in the sector.
Okay. I just want to raise the concern to everybody that the cost that we are, by you doing that, you are pushing the cost to the current residents, and then that will benefit the promoter, because all the infrastructure will be already been in place for them, and then they will benefit on that. So that won't lower my tax, and I won't lower my neighbor tax according to that. So that is my question for tonight, and I would write to you further.
You can write us that question.
My second question is...
But road work is done all the time. That is not, like, we repaved Dorchester in front of your house.
But in perspective
that was not
that project, meaning that you're pushing the cost to us.
No.
Instead of putting all those costs to the promoter. When they build it, they have to bear the cost. I mean, I'm totally happy to have a park with grass, and then that will cost me nothing. No street, no
Park
road.
with grass would cost you money if the city
but
were
less
to build
than
it.
pipe, then electricity and road, and then, so I just want to be aware about
opinion.
that. My second question is, I've been writing to Westmount, I think, Orbiculture, or because the dog park at Athletic Ground have infestation of beetles, and we're losing about 23, and then we're losing more, and I didn't get any.
At the WAG?
At the WAG, exactly.
Okay, we'll look
So
into that.
I didn't get any answer. I only have like an email replying saying that your email have been read, but I didn't see, and that is have been 2 years. I write the last year, and this year I followed 2 email, and the beetle is been eating, started eating, so we're gonna lose like a lot of trees. So if everybody is concerned about trees, I walk my dog around, and then I.
The Director General has taken note of that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And by the way, I'm a mom, family of 2 kids, and I live with my mom, and my kids told me they have intention to stay in Westmount.
Good. Well, we hope that they have lots of housing options.
Well, they could stay.
Okay, we are going to move into the next part of the agenda, so if I won't take offense if you leave now. I don't know. On va commencer avec l'adoption de l'ordre du jour. C'est conseiller Bostock pour Madame Gallery.
It's complicated.
Keep this go. Just go.
I move that the agenda of the regular council sitting of July 7, 2025 be adopted.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Gallery.
Yep.
Number 5, confirmation
Sorry,
of minutes.
can we have some quiet back there, please?
Councillor Bostock is also
I'm
going to
up
move the
again.
minutes because I think they're thinking I'm not here.
I'm sorry, you're missing a vote.
Oh,
a vote on that. All in favor of the agenda?
Aye.
Carried.
Good.
Confirmation of minutes. Yeah, it's all written like I'm not here, but I'm here. Councillor Bostock.
I move that the minutes of the regular council sitting held on June 9th, 2025 be approved.
Merci beaucoup. Appuyé par Madame Gallery. All in favor?
Aye.
Reports to council. The following 16 documents are tabled. La liste des règlements adoptés le 19 juin 2025 à l'Assemblée ordinaire du Conseil d'agglomération. La liste des règlements adoptés le 16 juin 2025 à l'Assemblée ordinaire du Conseil municipal de la Ville de Montréal. La résolution 2506-14 de la municipalité de Saint-Justine de Newton dénonçant les coupures au programme d'emploi d'été Canada. Le rapport de Deloitte dans le cadre de règlement sur la compensation. Apparemment, wow, this is new. I always told that I have to read the whole list. Okay, all of my 16 documents are tabled. Usually I use it as a room clearer, but they're already
Mission
gone.
accomplished. You've already done it. Well played.
I threatened that I was going to read the whole thing. All right, all of those documents are tabled and available. 6.2, c'est le procès-verbaux du comité consultatif sur les transports. C'est Madame Conseillère Bostock.
The minutes of the Transportation Advisory Committee meeting held on April 8th, 2025 are tabled and are available on the city's website.
Merci beaucoup. 6.3, le procès-verbaux du comité consultatif pour l'environnement et le développement durable. C'est Monsieur Aronson.
Merci, Madame Mairesse. Let me just find our place. Thank you. The minutes of the advisory committee, the advisory environmental and sustainable development committee meetings held on March the 25th, 2025, April the 1st, 2025, May the 6th, 2025, and June 10th, 2025 are tabled and available on the city's website.
Thank you very much. 6.4, 6.4, le rapport de la main-d'œuvre, c'est conseiller Chamy.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. Le rapport de la main-d'œuvre pour le mois de juin 2025 est maintenant déposé.
Merci beaucoup. Registre de paiement, c'est encore Monsieur Chamy.
La liste des paiements pour le mois de mai 2025 est déposée.
6.6, la liste des approbations en vertu de règlement 1507, c'est conseiller Chamy.
Conformément au règlement 1507 sur la délégation de pouvoir à certains employés de la Ville de Westmount, la liste d'autorisation de dépenses pour le mois de mai 2025 est maintenant déposée.
Merci beaucoup. 6.7, list of duties on transfers is again Councillor Chamy.
The lists of duties on transfers, Madam Mayor, for the month of May 2025 are now tabled.
Thank you. Moving into general business and administration, item number 7 is the appointment of the substitute director general. And this is again Councillor Chamy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that Ms. Elisa Gaetano be appointed as Substitute Director General of the City of Westmount, effective July 7th, 2025, and that in this capacity, in the absence or incapacity of the Director General and the Substitute Director General, she be authorized to exercise the authority of the Director General and to act as signatory and representative of the city within its scope and her duties.
Thank you very much. A seconder on this will be Councillor Peart. This is just planning for vacations and whatnot to make sure we have the right people in place. All in favor? Thank you. Item number 8 is a very unfortunate one, is the transaction et quittance statut de la mère et l'enfant, transaction and release of mother and child statute. It's Councillor Chamy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think I'll read the whereases. The
Yes, I
city
think
entered
they're
into a loan agreement for the bronze statue entitled La Mère et l'Enfant by the artist Leah Vivo to be exhibited free of charge in Square Prince Albert in Westmount. Whereas on or around November 27th, 2024, the statue was stolen, and despite the best efforts of the relevant authorities, it has not been recovered. Whereas following the theft of the statue, the city received compensation from its insurer, and we wish to compensate the owners of the artwork. I move that the city clerk be authorized to sign on behalf of the city the transaction and release attached to this resolution, and that the city be authorized to pay the amount of $450,593.38 to the owner of the statue, La Mère et l'Enfant, all in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making file 5263.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Peart. This is a very unfortunate incident where it was what would have appeared to be very securely installed. Some thieves stole a statue that had been graciously sort of on loan to the city from the family, which is tragic that that happened. So this is pertaining to that. So seconded by Councillor Peart. All in favor? Carried. Item number 9, numéro 9, des finances, rapport du trésorier exercice financier 2024. Parole, Monsieur Chamy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Je m'excuse, on va recommencer. It's the notes that I was saying about the stolen statue was that it is very unfortunate that it was what we had thought was secured, or what was, had been secured, was still able to be stolen. So that's what the previous motion was about. Numéro 9, c'est les finances, rapport du trésorier exercice financier 2024. C'est conseiller Chamy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Treasurer's Activity Report for 2024 fiscal year is now filed in accordance with Section 513 of the Act respecting elections and referendums in municipalities.
And it's just a tabling. We don't have to do a vote of that. So now we move into contractual matters. Et c'est modification d'un contrat reconstruction de l'avenue Forden et de Forden Crescent, PUB 2025-012. This is a modification to the Forden contract. This will be Councillor Peart.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse. I move that an additional amount of $175,954.53, including tax credit, $192,693.14, including taxes, be allocated to the contract for the reconstruction of Forden Avenue and Forden Crescent, public call for tenders PUB-2025-012, awarded to Eurovia Quebec, Inc., that the contract awarded to Eurovia Quebec, Inc. under this call for tenders be increased to $4,046,555.94, including taxes, that this expenditure be charged in accordance with the financial information provided in the decision-making file number 5080 and 5267.
Thank you very much, Councillor Roux, as the councillor for the district. Any further comments on this?
I might have said this before, but when we authorize, when we approve contracts for our construction projects, we don't generally, not generally, we never include a contingency. We hold our contractors really tight to the originally quoted price, but on the odd occasion, as is the case today, there is a change, usually for something that is unforeseen or not, generally something that's unforeseen, and in terms, it's a large amount, but in terms of the fraction that represents of the whole contract, it is relatively minor. So that's what we're seeing today.
Thank you very much. So seconded by Councillor Roux. All in favor? Aye. Carried. Item number 12 is also an important one, a very important one. Awarding of contract restoration of the ROSLYN staircase.
Say 11.
11, sorry. Item 11 is Councillor Shammy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to authorize an expenditure of $1,762,210.99, including tax credits for the restoration of the ROSLYN public staircase, public call for tender PUB 2025-16, and to award the contract to Seho Construction, Inc. for this purpose at the price of its bid for a maximum amount of $2,983,234.48, taxes included, all in accordance with the contractual documents of public call for tenders PUB 2025-16, and finally to charge this expenditure in accordance with the financial information in file number 5252.
So this is an important project that's been long overdue because it's the stairs and the retaining walls and the stairs in the city of Westmount require a lot of work. They're very expensive to undertake, and we have been working on this project for a long time trying to get bidders on it. So we are very pleased that we do have a contractor to award it to, and look forward to the opening of this important part of the network of stairs through the city to be finished. So that was seconded by Councillor Peart, moved by Councillor Shammy. All in favor? Aye. Carried. Item number 12, awarding l'octroi de contrat réfection complète de la toiture du garage numéro 4, PUB 2025-024, awarding of a contract complete roof replacement of garage number 4. This is in the Public Works Yard. Councillor Bostock, this is over to you.
I move to authorize an expenditure of $302,888.94, including tax credit for the complete roof replacement of garage number 4. Call for public tenders PUB 2025-024. And to award the contract to COUVREURS-VERDUN, Inc. for this purpose at the price of its bid for a maximum amount of $331,702.88. Taxes included, all in accordance with the contractual documents of the public call for tenders, PUB 2025-024, and to charge this expenditure in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making file number 5250.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Gallery. Do you want to add anything to that?
Much needed.
Okay, all in favor? Contract renewal telephone services, INV 2024-007. This is again Councillor Shammy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that contract INV 2024-007 awarded to Solutions ITED, Inc., Resolution 2024-0492, be renewed for a period of 1 year from June 1st, 2025 to May 31st, 2026, an amount of $29,245.77, taxes included, be granted for this purpose in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making file 2024-2238 and 5253, and the Director of Information Technology Department be authorized to sign for and in the name of the city all documentation giving effect to the present resolution.
Thank you very much. Seconder on this will be Councillor Peart. It's pretty straightforward. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Item number 15. 14 is Agreement Business Internet Service Bell Canada, and is again Councillor Shammy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the city enter into a service agreement with Bell Canada for a period of 3 years from February 3rd, 2025 to February 2nd, 2028 for business internet service. Pardon me, that the Director of IT Department be authorized to sign on behalf of the city the Service Schedule Amendment Agreement, Non-Tariffed Services Amendment appended to this resolution, and that the amount of $62,086.50, taxes included, be authorized for this service agreement covering the 3 years of the contract, all in accordance with the financial information provided in decision-making file 5249.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Bostock. Any further comments? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Numéro 15, renouvellement du contrat Axéo Solutions Inc., division G-Techna. And that is, again, Councillor Shammy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the hosting and support contracts with Axéo Solutions, Inc., G-Techna Division for the parking permit management system be renewed for 1 year from June 1st, 2025 to May 31st, 2026, that an amount of $51,646.75, taxes included, which is $47,160.36, including tax credit, be authorized for this purpose in accordance with the financial information provided in the decision-making file 5251, and that the Director of Information Technology Department be authorized to sign on behalf of the city any documents giving effect to this resolution.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Peart. All in favor? Carried. Now we move to urban planning.
Thank God.
Le dépôt des procès-verbaux des assemblées du Comité consultatif d'urbanisme, le CCU, et c'est M. Peart, c'est conseiller Peart.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. Je propose que le Conseil prenne acte et accepte le dépôt des procès-verbaux du Comité consultatif d'urbanisme, le CCU, pour les assemblées suivantes. Assemblée ordinaire tenue les 3 et 5 juin 2025. Assemblée spéciale tenue le 3 juin 2025. C'est une demande de dérogation mineure.
Merci beaucoup. Appuyé par Madame Gallery. All in favor? Carried. Again, Councillor Peart will be the approval of Site Planning and Architectural Integration Program, le S.P.A.I.P. Councillor Peart.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that Council act on the recommendations of the Planning Advisory Committee, the PAC, as set out in the minutes of its regular meeting held on June 3rd and 5th of 2025, and approve, with respect to each of them, the plans and permit conditions attached to the items listed below, as assessed in accordance with Bylaw 1305 on site planning and architectural integration programs.
Thank you. There's a lot.
We've had a busy month ahead,
Yeah.
yes.
Anything that you want to note beyond sort of typical renovations?
Not today.
No? Okay, so seconded by Councillor Gallery. All in favor? Moved. And now we move to number 18, minor exemption application 392 Victoria Avenue. La demande de dérogation mineure, c'est le 392 Avenue Victoria. C'est encore Councillor Peart.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will dispense with the whereases, but they are all noted in the agenda. I move that the above preamble forms an integral part of this resolution. The Council approves a minor exemption application aimed at allowing the installation of a freestanding deck that would occupy the entire side yard of Lot 1581439 that would not be supported by posts or walls, and that would require the elimination of 6 parking spaces, which will not be conforming to the following subdivisions of zoning bylaw 1303. Subdivision 5.5.1 stipulates under point 4 that in the case of a building other than a residential or industrial building, or in the case of a part of a building designed for occupancies other than residential, a parking garage on the lot or parcel of land on which the building is constructed is established containing a minimum of 1 parking space per 500 square feet, or 46.45 square meters. Of the ground floor is established, and 1 parking space per 1,000 square feet, or 92.9 square meters, of the total floor area of all other floors, which would require 7 parking spaces on the lot 1581439 after calculation. Subdivision 6.17.2 stipulates that a freestanding deck is a deck supported by posts or walls, but structurally separate and connected to the building only by a walkway or staircase less than 4.92 feet or 1.5 meters wide, is not considered part of the building, and that the distance between a deck and a property line shall be at least twice as great as its height above the ground.
C'est beau. Seconded by Councillor Gallery. Do you want to add any further comments to this?
I'll give a little bit of context just to familiarize everybody and to situate this property. These are the 6 parking lots which are adjacent to the tenant, which is Spirulina on Victoria, and these parking spots are being converted into a new and in my opinion, a much better vocation of an outdoor terrace, which will serve, surprisingly, not the next door neighbor on Victoria, but rather the property that faces St. Catherine Street, the new restaurant or food space that's opening up there, and so they'll be able to access it from its rear. But like I say, this is a much better use than just the storage of cars on an empty lot which faces the street. So we look forward to this new addition.
Yeah, it's good. There's some good new restaurants opening up in the area. Item number 19, numéro 19. Oh, je m'excuse, un vote encore. C'est appuyé par Madame Gallery. Vous avez donné des commentaires. Tout en faveur? Yes, everybody? Oh, yep. Item number 19, final adoption bylaw 1632, amending certain provisions of the zoning bylaw concerning vested rights and uses.
Oui.
Is Councillor Peart.
Oui, je vais
Ouais,
signaler...
avant, c'est Madame la greffier.
Je signale que toutes les formalités requises pour la dispense de lecture de ce règlement ont été respectées et que des copies du règlement ont été remises à tous les membres du Conseil. Des copies ont également été mises à la disposition du public.
Est-ce que je peux avoir la déclaration de la part de chaque membre du Conseil à la fait qu'il ou elle a lu le règlement et que la lecture en est dispensée? Oui. So declared. Councillor Peart, you will give the purpose of the bylaw.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse. The purpose of this proposed bylaw is to amend the zoning bylaw in order to update the chapter concerning vested rights and the subdivision concerning the occupancy of premises for the practice of massages.
Thank you.
I move that the bylaw 1632, entitled Bylaw to Amend Certain Provisions of the Zoning Bylaw concerning vested rights and uses, to be adopted.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Aronson. I think we had discussed this before. All in favor? Aye. Carried. Now we move to Human Resources. Congédiement d'un employé col bleu, matricule 06309. C'est Monsieur Chamy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that council authorize the dismissal for just and sufficient cause of the employee with the number 06309 as of July 7th, 2025, upon the recommendation of the Director General.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Peart. All in favor? Aye. Carried. Item number 21, numéro 21, c'est le contrat de travail, la direction générale. Councillor Chamy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that council approve the terms and conditions set out in the employment contract attached hereto, which forms an integral part of the resolution, and that the mayor be authorized on behalf of the city to sign the attached employment contract.
Thank you very much.
For Madame Julie Monville as Director General of the City of Westmount. I forgot to mention that at the beginning. I apologize.
Merci beaucoup. Et this is an update, comme une mise à jour avec le contrat avec le DG. Donc, appuyé par Madame Bostock. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Under new business, affaires nouvelles, fin de la période d'essai et cessation d'emploi matricule 06855. C'est encore Monsieur Chamy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I did not want to read all the whereases, but I feel if I just read the
you don't have to read the whereas.
I move that council authorize and ratify the end of the probationary period and the termination of employment of the employee with the number 06855 on July 7th, 2025, as recommended by the Director General.
Merci beaucoup. Appuyé par Madame Bostock. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
Another one for
And
you.
we have another one, item number 23.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I
Congédiement d'un
move
employé col bleu matricule 05593.
I
C'est la dernière.
move that council authorize the dismissal for cause of the employee with number 05593 effective July 7th, 2025, as recommended by the Director General.
Merci beaucoup. Appuyé par Madame Bostock. All in favor? Carried. Item number 24, l'octroi d'un contrat réfection de l'avenue Claremont, significant project. Item 24 is Councillor Peart.
Thank you, Madame la Mairesse. As introduced previously, I authorize an expenditure of $3,568,847.01, including tax credit, to repair, that 1 cent's important, to repair Claremont Avenue between Notre-Dame-de-Grâce and Lorraine Avenues. Public call for tenders PUB-2025-033 to award the contract to Coachelac Inc. in the amount of $3,935,552.97, taxes included, and in conformity with the contract documents of public call for tenders PUB-2025-033, that the awarding of this contract and its financing remain conditional upon obtaining the financing related to the coming into force of Bylaw 1624, decreeing an expense and a loan of $18,238,400 for various road, water, and sewer works. To allocate this expense according to the financial information described in the decision-making file number 5255.
Merci beaucoup. Appuyé par Councillor Bostock. All in favor? Carried. Oh, that should have been seconded by Councillor Roux. She may excuse. I was looking this way. Seconded by Councillor Roux, please.
Sorry.
Let's go. And carried by all. We look forward to that work being done. That's going to be sort of staggered. There will be a short overlap when Sherbrooke is being done and Claremont is being done, but that is why they're starting at the top of Claremont to minimize the impact on the traffic flow in the area. So that's an exciting project that is in desperate need. All right, now we move on to the second question period. If there's any questions in the room, then we'll move on to questions online, because I know we have several, but I think some of them have been asked already in person. Welcome. State your name, please.
My name is Jessica Winton. I wanted to ask if the city has any procedure on signage relating to the adjustment of pedestrian crosswalks being modified, as I almost got hit by a car by routinely thinking I had the right of way because of the buttons for the intersection of Roslyn and the Boulevard being changed. There were no signage for that. And
so you would like additional signage up there at that intersection?
Yeah. Okay. At least like temporarily while there's an adjustment, like nouvelle signalisation or something, because
when did that get installed? So it was just installed. Okay. So we will make sure that the signage will come with that, but we'll make sure that that happens quickly.
Great. And then I also wanted to ask quickly, as there was a party or something behind the Mountainside Church.
Hang on, the corner, the DG is just wants to make sure it's Roslyn and the Boulevard.
Roslyn, the Boulevard, and I guess Edge Hill as well.
Yeah. Yeah, we put in some crossing lights across there, so just if we can add the additional signage, which typically, I'm sure it's probably like coming tomorrow. Gotcha. And I see that our Director of Public Safety is also here, so he will take note of that. Okay, next question, sorry.
I wanted to ask super quickly, as there was a party or something behind the Mountainside Church, for future reference, which department of the city would I contact to remove an adult phallic toy I found in the grass? Is it something that, depending on the specifications, would require scheduling a bulky item
I am out of the office. No, where you some residents would, what you should do is write to assistance@westmount.org, and they will ensure that Public Works takes care of any garbage.
I believe Public Works had come by for like some beer cans and things around, but thanks to Councillor Roux, the particular object I have in mind was removed.
Oh, gosh, okay.
But it is Public Works.
Okay. So, but for the general public, they should understand if there is a question about this, the fastest way to get this is either via the portal on the website or to write to assistance@westmount.org, and then that gets sent out to the different departments that are responsible for that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no further questions in the room, we will go to the questions online that hadn't already been asked. I think there's still a few.
Yeah. Première question, Frédéric Girvan. Madam Mayor, many requests have been made to provide proof that the city is properly insured for the Summit Woods Dog Park. Is there a prescribed delay to produce evidence the city is insured for an unfenced, off-leash dog park?
There is no delay because the city has all the insurance required that we need as a municipality. What is being asked, not by any residents, but by what had been asked of the city, was to provide a letter of assurance for an incident that has not happened. So obviously, common sense would dictate that an insurance company cannot do that
All right.
for
next
fabricated
question.
incidents.
From Erika Kim Lalonde. In the Dorchester Green area, we have experienced a recent decline in the normally reliable waste collection services. No recycling, street or lane, for 2 consecutive weeks, neglected and inconsistent guarded waste collection, missed or delayed to the next day green bin collection, as well as missed lineway recycling collection. Even if this can be attributed to the challenges related to the construction along Green Avenue, that project will continue over the summer months. While the Public Works team have been responsive when advised of these gaps, can the city kindly put forth greater effort to ensure that waste collection is consistent again for those of us impacted by this major construction project? There's a follow-up question.
Okay.
If the city moves forward with the proposed major southwest rejuvenation project, how will the city ensure that we do not experience a similar neglect or decline in waste collection services?
So thank you for your question, and I know you have been in touch with the Public Works team and the Environmental and Sustainability team. And I agree with you, it's unacceptable. It has to be picked up. These are outside contractors, so our team is working with the outside contractors to make sure this never happens again. And it doesn't matter that there's construction in the neighborhood. There's that construction, those projects, we have 4 or 5 major projects which our contractors are made aware of, and they have to deal with their routes accordingly, but it is totally unacceptable. So I'm with you, as is the administration, and they're going to ensure that this doesn't happen again. But please be in touch if, again, the best way to do that is via assistance@westmount.org, but that should not be happening.
Parfait. Prochaine question, Jean Rousseau. Bonjour. En fait, c'est 2 questions. La première, quelles sont les règles pour l'arrosage des pelouses à Westmount? Y a-t-il des restrictions de jour ou d'heure? Il serait bon de publier l'information sur le site web de la Ville. Et la question numéro 2, est-ce qu'il est nécessaire d'obtenir une autorisation du CCU pour installer un panier de basketball à l'avant de sa propriété? Je vois que beaucoup de voisins le font et ce n'est pas très beau. Je croyais que toute modification à l'aspect extérieur d'une propriété nécessitait une autorisation du CCU et je vois mal le CCU accepter ce genre de projet. Merci.
Merci beaucoup pour votre question. Et je faut vous dire, la réponse est non pour les 2 questions. Nous n'avons pas de restrictions en matière d'arrosage pour la ville de Westmount. Et les paniers de basketball ne besoin pas un permis du PAC ou de CCU parce qu'ils n'acceptent pas un permis. Donc, on peut mettre des basketball nets dans nos stationnements ou un peu partout sur le terrain, mais peut-être ça l'aide si vous demandez à votre voisin s'il peut jouer à un autre temps ou quelque chose, mais non, on n'a besoin pas des permis pour ça.
Parfait. Prochaine question from Lucy Fellows. The special planning program posted May 28 on Engage Westmount for citizen review was the basis for question and comments at the public assembly on June 18. The city presentation at the public assembly differs from the previous report in important aspects that will affect Westmount Southeast sector planning. Among these, the metropolitan planning notes that include the CMM MPAD, it's PMAD adopted on June 9, 2025, and the agglomeration Schéma d'aménagement et de développement under review. Other example, main concept changes on page 23 of the document posted after June 18 cite a revision of the volumetric treatment of the Atwater intersection. Was it the change? Where can I see it? The action plan for traffic, community, facility, and use, real estate development post after June 18 have been reconfigured, shifting some phases such as stormwater management to no longer term. The June 18 report affirms that the special planning program is based on a collectively established vision. When will council hold a public meeting When will council hold a public meeting before the second adoption in September to respond to the issue raised by the presentation on June 18 and the posted report?
Okay, so I will, there's several questions in there, so I will attempt to answer a few of them, and if anyone else would like to weigh in, they're very welcome to. With regard to the Metropolitan Planning Notes, the revised PAIEMENTS that you discussed, it was adopted on June 9th. So that is a change from when we had the previous, public consultation. It should be noted that our urban planning department has been working, as I said earlier in the evening, for years with the agglomeration, including other boroughs and other cities and the entire island of Montreal. The broad outlines of this revision, including new density thresholds, have been known internally. We've known this is coming, and every city knows this is coming. Cities across Canada know that this is coming. And they are very much taken into account when we were working in the development of the PPU, of the southeast area. I think she referred, Ms. Fellows referred to the modification of the heights on St. Catherine Street, and the towers to redistribute density on St. Catherine Street and revision of the volume treatment. And the changes, yes, there were changes from the November version to the latest version that they have seen, and that is in response to the public consultations that had been held and to the feedback and the online feedback. And I think she was asking about the bylaws as well at the end of the bylaws that were being asked for, that she asked about. These can be seen in the concordance bylaws that we adopted on May 27th. In those bylaws, it calls for setbacks for the future building equivalent to that of the Atwater Library for the portion located in Westmount, and the number of floors reduced from 25 to 20 on that corner is part of the latest version of the plans, and certain architectural criteria that would be added to the S.P.A.I.P, the PERIODE bylaw, to ensure the best possible integration. So I think that was what she was referring to with the Atwater Library. And then on the public consultation, that was deemed the last sort of public assembly, public consultation, but obviously tonight's city council meeting is a place to voice concern. All council members are always available for communication. You can write to us. You can share your concerns. There will also be a council meeting in October, or in August 4th, September 1st, 2nd? No, I don't know when it is. It's before the public, it's before the, I believe so, yeah. And then there's the, as had always been sort of laid out in the schedule, that it is going to be in September 8th. But we welcome your feedback and your contribution to that. Donc, c'est beau. Next question.
From Marina Bresky. Given the city of Westmount has published the following comment on page 10 of the March 2024 notice from the agglomeration of Montreal regarding the CMM PMARD revised PMAD, le service de l'aménagement et de l'urbanisme rejette les nouveaux seuils de densité proposés puisqu'il s'agit de cibles irréalistes et non souhaitables qui ne tiennent pas compte des particularités territoriales et du contexte patrimonial. with emphasis on the text published in bold, irréaliste et non souhaitable. There's a link from a notice from the AGLO. The question is, what led the mayor and city council to change course with this sudden decision to pursue this unrealistic and non-desirable target with this PPU, knowing that there are opportunities to avoid them via exemption put in place by the CMM and some lobbying effort with the Quebec minister. Note that Westmount was one member city amongst all other member cities on the AGLO that flagged these unrealistic targets in this report.
Thank you for, I don't have the report in front of me. I see that you sent a link, Ms. Breshke. This comment issued by the city was for the portion of the territory not affected by the TOD. For this portion of the territory, a new density of 120 dwellings per hectare was proposed. This threshold does not take into account the territorial and heritage characteristics of Westmount's non-sector, a large part is which is the Westmount Historic District. So when people refer to that the entirety of Westmount is a historical destination, it's largely above Sherbrooke Street. It is entirely reasonable to expect a density threshold as is in those historic areas. No one wants medium density multifamily buildings on or high rises. There's no proposal of that for Westmount Avenue or any of the residential streets. This situation is quite different in a TOD and quite different in particular on St. Catherine Street, where those heights and that density already exists on one side of the street. Therefore, we are being very consistent with the comments that we have made to the agglomeration throughout this, but I'm happy to discuss further with you. But that density and that height already exists in that sector. And we're looking to redevelop the lands, and we understand that the current height is not meeting the needs to get that done, to revitalize the neighborhood. Okay, next question.
From Dwayne Rivers. A few years ago, a part of Summit Circle was closed permanently to give back to the mountain and to the environment. Why not do the same for Belvedere Road? Between Côte des Neiges and Summit, this road is essentially in the middle of nature, and it is in very bad shape. Instead of pouring millions of dollars to refurbish it, why not transform it into a walking path like Summit Circle? I doubt everyone or anyone in this city has any regrets about the decision that was made back then.
Thank you very much for your question. It is noted. It definitely has a higher volume of traffic than Summit Circle would have, because that would have just, it is sort of an exit point for many people in the city, but I also agree with you, it's in terrible shape. Truly terrible shape. So it does need to be resurfaced, but it is not on this year's agenda to do that, but I will leave it, I will make sure that your point is noted and those, they can look at it in the future.
Dernière question de Gilles Bélanger. Quels sont les projets de la Ville au sujet du Belvédère Summit? Je comprends qu'on travaille à renforcer la structure cet été, mais il faut aussi penser à éliminer le stationnement et remplacer l'asphalte par du gazon. Quelles sont vos intentions et quel est l'échéancier?
Donc, les intentions, c'est sûr que ça faut être secure. Donc, je pense que la date, c'est le 19 juillet. Le travaux de renforcement sous la dalle de béton et sur le Summit Lookout, l'accès serait redonné aux résidents le 20 juillet. On pense que c'est le 20 juillet, j'espère. Une zone restreinte restera fermée jusqu'au futur projet de restauration majeur. Donc, on ne stationne pas sur le Summit Lookout pour maintenant parce que je pense qu'on peut faire mieux avec ce stationnement au lieu d'avoir des autos là-bas. Mais ça va être réouvert le 20 juillet. C'est beau? Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions en ligne?
No.
No? Then I think we will adjourn the meeting if there's no further questions in the room. Enjoy your month of July. See you in August.